Humpty Hump's my name. No two people will do it the same. Humping, funkin', jumping, gig around, shaking your points a finger like a stunt. Tell them step off. I'm doing the hump. The Humpty Dance. Here's your chance to do the hump. I'll do the Humpty Hump.
Crossover.
Oh, killer crossover.
Just crossover and just crossed him over nastily.
Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
All right, time for the crossover. It's powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. Good Monday morning, boys.
Hello, Gary. Welcome back. Well
Thank you.
done.
NCAA Tournament broadcaster. Gary
NCAA
Sharp.
Tournament Gary.
And man that stole a lot of stuff from Providence. I'm surprised they had the second round there.
Good job. Good job.
Nice.
What do you got? What was the haul?
Bunch of signage.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, I almost stole the
Like Omaha or March Madness?
March Madness.
Yeah.
So they also, I think, encourage you because they have a lot of stuff.
Yeah. They're not going to do anything with it.
Like everybody gets a gift box.
Ooh.
So you get a March Madness hoodie, you get a March Madness sign, you get a flag, you get a backpack,
Really?
you get a cards, you get socks, you get a hat with a rope on the front of it.
Oh, rope hats.
Yes.
That has March Madness on the
Yes.
front? That's kind of
March
cool.
Madness is everywhere.
That's awesome. That's fantastic.
They were a little bit lax though, like they were in Rupp Arena. The Powerade Cup police were not as strong.
Yeah, I
You
noticed
could sneak
that
some
last
things
year.
by.
Yeah, last year too. They weren't that bad on the Powerade stuff. But I always feel weird bringing the cups, the open cups, out to the floor, knowing that you're so close. People could come flying in, and then all of a sudden there's stuff everywhere.
So I didn't catch where they played. So when I was right next to the KU radio guys, and I know Brian from way back, he said last year the site that they were at, they made them put lids on their cups.
Really? They had like
before they brought them onto the
lids?
floor.
Sure.
That's probably a good move.
It made me appreciate how great a job Creighton does. Providence put on a great show, and they were fortunate enough that Providence was not in the NCAA tournament, so everybody could be involved.
Yeah.
After the first day of 4 games, those people look so miserable.
Oh my God. Long
Grinding.
days.
And I will tell
This is
you,
the last game tipping off at
Hey.
like 11 o'clock.
yeah, we didn't start till 10 o'clock
Yeah.
Thursday night, local time. You saw this in New York City, and this is what, in passing, one of the sports information people from Providence told me. They said the St. John's people just sucked the life out of you.
In what way? In what way?
Very demanding, the
Yeah.
whole show.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
goes into St. John's basketball currently?
Well, luckily, nobody else has to deal with them anymore.
They do not.
Oh,
They,
it's so sad.
they
you
do
hate
not.
it. You hate it when teams lose.
You guys would have loved this. And I started to take pictures and then I stopped because I got caught. There were so many random New York Knicks jerseys that people were wearing on Wednesday and Thursday there.
Yeah. We had the great screenshot of the kid from McNeese State along with Spike Lee.
Yes.
And Matt Abdelmassi.
So
Did you talk to him?
Yes, I did.
Good, because I talked to him a lot this year for whatever reason. I mean, I was just always around.
He's a 3-phone guy.
Oh, yeah.
So Wednesday, before their practice,
3?
he has got 3 phones in his hand. And he is talking on one. He's got the 2 other ones. He has not changed one bit.
No.
He is a wheeler and a dealer, and now he can do all that stuff legally.
I remember walking into the first Nebraska basketball practice, or one of them, and he was there, and and they were just finishing up practice, and they were going to do some media afterwards. And all the coaches are coaching, and he's an assistant coach, mind you, at Nebraska, and he is in the seats in the stands at Pinnacle Bank Arena on his phone, just like how you saw, with his legs crossed, and just chatting up whoever he's going to chat up on the old phone there. He's a good hang for a couple minutes at a time.
He is. He is in a perfect spot for him.
Yeah.
Like St. John's is here to stay as long as Pitino is there. But he is like the perfect college basketball general manager.
Yeah. He's working the phones.
Oh, so him and I were having a conversation, and yet he was also having a conversation with the St. John's guy to my left.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, focus here.
And
Focus.
the St. John's
make
people,
eye contact.
They'll talk to you too. They'll just talk to you.
Did not realize Pitino was that small.
Oh yeah, he's a slight man.
He is.
It's gotten smaller in his old age.
Right. I bet he's 5'7".
Probably right around there. Yeah.
But there is, like I was telling Jimmy, the anticipation in the game before when Calipari and Self came out, like the anticipation when Pitino comes out. You saw it when they were here for New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on the Hurley level,
not quite,
but it's still like, oh my God, there's Rick Pitino walking out onto the floor.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's shaking hands with Chris Crutchfield. That makes sense.
So weird. That was it was awesome to watch him hang in there for a half, and just felt like, can they keep it? And then you're playing just one segment at a time, right? One 4-minute segment at a time, and well ran dry. A little bit for the Mavs.
Can we also discuss, after 4 days of basketball, where we've watched 1,000 games and we've seen the pig commercial? Yeah, that thing needs to go.
Whee!
How much do you think the transaction, or what do you think the transaction looked like between the NCAA and Lady Gaga?
Oh,
great question.
So that is the song of March Madness.
Mm-hmm.
They play it. They actually, before the start of the second half, in the arena, they play the whole song.
Oh.
What whole song?
It's what, Abracadabra?
Sure.
Oh. So that's the song you hear over and over in bumps, in and out. And all the highlights they use on the studio shows, like the montages, it's Lady Gaga's song.
Is she angling for like a new Aladdin movie or something like that? With the Abracadabra?
I don't know, but I don't remember like March Madness having a song as prevalent as that one is this year, because it is used nonstop.
Well, it's always the CBS theme, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's whatever song is popular at the moment, and then they just really run it into the ground.
Do you think she will do it live in San Antonio?
Oh,
is that what we're going for?
Is she going to be singing?
Yeah, that seems plausible, right?
But it's a 4-minute and 3 second song.
Wow,
so when there's 4:03 on the clock before the start of the second half, they start the song.
Gary's got this timed out.
Well, because I'd heard it all day, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. That's the only song they keep using over and over. And then in the arena, they play the whole song. And they played it at the beginning, not the whole song, but they played like a 30-second snippet right before they announced the teams.
They got to have a deal. How many times did you hear the NCAA championship songs that they played at the College World Series?
Just twice.
Oh, that song is just burned into my brain from the College World Series.
It's not as it seems like there's more PSAs for the NCAA, the College World Series, than there is the NCAA tournament.
Oh, that's sad. That's sad. I want to hear that song. Yeah, it's a nice taste before the College World Series.
Let's see. What do we have?
Which is now the next thing, everybody. Just the countdown is on to the College World Series. Or spring ball, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing.
It's coming.
You should be into spring ball.
I'm into
spring ball?
I'm into spring ball, but I don't know. I can't. I'm still in basketball.
Yes. Hey, and there's still a team alive, and a week from today they'll be playing.
That's right. People forget about the Crown.
Maybe even current players forget about the Crown.
Maybe, because they're all in the transfer portal today.
So we had a couple of things here that would amuse you guys on incidents in Providence. So we stayed a little bit outside of the city. We stayed in the same hotel as High Point. So ran into Alan Huss, the head coach of High Point, of course, former Creighton assistant.
Yes.
Ironically, High Point in Omaha in the NCAA tournament for the first time, the two guys that were most mentioned for the Omaha job were staying in the same hotel.
Wow.
Kind of interesting. But the hotel workers were very concerned that we weren't going to stay the whole weekend. Like you were going to lose on Thursday and be gone.
Well,
that happened. They made a huge deal about the Omaha students standing. So the people that were sitting behind the Omaha students
in the Taco Bell student section?
Yes, when the St. John's fans,
just trying to live
they
lost.
made them sit down.
What?
Yeah, they made them sit down. We also had a laser pointer guy way up in the corner in Providence.
There's always a laser pointer
got
guy.
arrested. And then the bigger story is during the afternoon session on Thursday, there was a man that was in the ceiling tiles of the women's bathroom in Providence.
Oh no!
And they couldn't figure out how to get him out of there.
Did he have a ticket?
I don't know.
I'm a journalist for Rhode Island's #1 newspaper that gets stolen in the movie Dumb and Dumber.
Yes, that's right. The Rhode Island, what?
Not everybody gets our humor of Rhode Island movies. Whether
it's
be
just Dumb and Dumber.
Me, myself, and Irene.
Oh yeah. He's a Rhode Island state trooper.
Because we had our escort. We got a police escort everywhere with the lights on and everything. So I got to know the state trooper. And so he let me ride with him in the front seat.
Did you talk with him about that movie?
I did. And he gave me this look.
Hey, check. How, did you request to be in the front seat of the cop car?
So this guy was like super stone-faced when he picked us up on Tuesday. And he's with us the whole time. And I was like, I want to talk to this guy because they are dressed like Mounties.
Absolutely.
And this guy was like, he wouldn't smile. He would just do his job and yes, sir, no, ma'am, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so Wednesday morning, I was going to loosen him up. And so I said, hey, have you ever seen and he stopped me and he goes,
nah.
He goes, yes. So to come to find out, this guy had just gotten out of the military. And he was on probation. So he was like strict. Then we had another guy come. And that guy was like, oh, yeah, I'll take pictures with you. You want to ride in the car? Get in.
Oh, that's awesome. And so obviously Gary Sharp is saying yes to that.
So we get in. And so he, of course, has the lights on. And I'm like, hey, let's hit the horn. Let's get on some people. So we'd pull up behind a car that was in the way of the bus. The two buses coming from behind. He'd hit the horn.
Like the big one?
He'd hit the siren.
Yeah.
And the person wouldn't move. And then he'd hit the horn again. And then he would pull up next to him, roll down the window, and give him the business.
Oh, hell yeah.
I said, so how bad are the drivers in Rhode Island? He goes, they're the worst.
Wow.
Because we had an incident where
Rhode Island,
we were
Omaha,
going to practice on Wednesday, and there is the two buses, and then there's the state patrol vehicle, and this guy got in between the state patrol vehicle and the buses.
Can't do that.
And Officer Darnell, he was like livid. He goes, should I slam on the brakes?
You can't do that.
But yes, so he goes, the movie, he goes, I hope you know that that's not real. And I'm like, it was a great movie.
Yeah, it was good.
And then the Dumb and Dumber.
Don't think it portrayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've seen it all in the Rhode Island, the Rhode Island connection to films.
So when they got pulled over in Dumb and Dumber, half mile down the road and slit his throat. when they got pulled over in that movie, they weren't in Rhode Island anymore. So that one doesn't reflect that poorly. Sipping on grandpa's cough medicine.
Providence is a nice town. It's a little bit older town, but I didn't realize it was that close to the water.
Did you see Petey?
Yes.
Petey.
Yes.
Pretty bird. Pretty bird.
Let's just say the collection of mascots that were in Providence were, you had the cowboy from McNeese.
Yep.
You had
Did the Friar show
boiler.
Up?
Yes, the Friar did show up for an event, but not at the games.
Okay.
Which is creepy as hell.
Yep.
So
weird.
we had the Purdue mascot and the Providence mascot that were in the vicinity of each other.
The two weirdest ones.
Yes. But I didn't realize that Providence was that close to the water. Because when you're flying in, you're basically flying along the Atlantic Ocean and Newport Beach before you come into Rhode Island.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the old map here. Providence, Rhode Island.
I'm surprised you don't know this, Colin.
Well, I just, you don't, yeah. So there's a little bay there that looks like the Sea Streak ferry will run on the Narragansett Bay all the way down to Newport. It looks like you could take it all the way to Long Island, I suppose, if you want to, or Block Island. You can take the Block Island Sound right over to Montauk. That's pretty good. Also, I believe you came in contact with our dear friend, Mr. Pete Tweets.
Yes. So Josh, I texted Connor a Thursday night because Pete Thamel. So Pat Forty was there. Pete Thamel was there. Nicole Auerbach was there.
I think Fanta was there too.
John Fanta.
He's a superstar.
Next to Patino and Calipari is the third most popular person at that regional.
100%.
Everybody
Anywhere
stopped him, took pictures, talked to John for a while. But everybody is talking to Fanta. So there's Pete Thamel. And on my phone, there's a Pete tweet of a breaking news. And so I'm like, you know what? He's
right here. I go ask him.
He big timed us at the Big Ten Media Days a couple years ago. I got a great opportunity. No one's sitting around him. He's still banging on his computer. And then he happened to get up and go get a drink. And so I was there. And so we started a conversation. Loves Matt Rule.
Wow.
Absolutely loves Matt Rule.
Because he talks. Right?
Well, he gives him the scoop.
So I don't.
Hey, Henrik Carberg started quarterback today, Pete, just so you know.
I may have, I think we were starting to develop a nice little friendship. And then I said, hey, do you think you could get Rule to break a story right now while we're together? Like, could you tweet Rule and say, hey, anything up? He wasn't really fond of that. And he went back to work to break a story of something else.
He was working on a lot of stuff over the weekend. Coaches changing jobs and things like that. Mr. Pete tweets, there's just certain people who are really supposed to do the jobs that they're doing. And Mr. Pete tweets, he's a robot.
Yes.
He is looking at his computer, not knowing where he is, what's going on around him. He is totally locked in to whatever is going on his phone or his computer.
So you've heard like
Weird
Schefter
guy.
And Woj tell that lifestyle. I think it would be a miserable lifestyle.
Yes.
You're always on.
Yeah.
You are always on your phone. You're always contacting people. He was saying that he gets up in the morning and there are like 5 to 10 people that he will check in with to see if anything's going on. And that's the first thing he does when he wakes up in the morning.
Yeah. Rothstein, same thing.
I'm like, that sounds like a miserable life.
It does. Imagine texting people. It's horrible. Hey, how you doing today? You got anything?
That's what he said. He goes, there are 5 to 10 people every day I get up and that's my text. He goes, hey, anything up? Same people every day.
Oh my God.
To be an insider.
I just could not be, I just could not be that much of a burden to people, I would just feel bad. I'm like, I'm texting this person every day and ask if they have anything. And 75% of the time they don't, but you come up with something every once in a while.
Can you like just see him like, so like Goodman and Mac are good friends. So like when the Pop Isaacs things happened, Goodman was the first to break it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like from the reporter standpoint, just blowing up a coach's phone nonstop? Hey, is this true? Can I get a confirmation? Boom, 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 boom. I got to go on air. I'm going on air in 5 minutes. I need a confirmation. Is this true? Boom, 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 boom. That's the world
fun.
You live in as an insider.
It doesn't sound fun. It does not sound fun. By the way, I've just received a press release. Well, it's not particularly breaking news, but Ben McCollum has been announced as the head coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Oh my goodness.
Basketball team. Not their football team. Their basketball team. Hey, Drake's open. Say Drake.
I hear you like him young.
What happens with that job?
Well, one thing on Ben McCollum. So the Drake fans, so his thing is he wears a white shirt.
Yes.
And he wears a tie.
Yes.
And so Drake fans, as they got better and better as the season went along, Drake fans started dressing like him. And there was a kid, like a 6-year-old, that would dress like Ben McCollum every game and sit near the bench.
That's awesome.
So will Iowa fans start dressing like their head coach?
Well, the Iowa basketball has sent out a tweet of a white shirt and a yellow tie in their locker room.
Hey, so does Bennett Sturts have eligibility left?
Yes.
Is he going with?
So he has to come with him.
I would think so. You either get Tucker DeVries or Bennett Sturts. You don't have enough money for Tucker.
No. But you have enough money for Bennett.
Yeah.
That money in Des Moines will be different than the money to Iowa City.
So he went at Northwest Missouri State, he went 395-91.
Yeah.
That's a lot of wins.
And he had opportunities to leave, but he became very choosy. Like he was offered a couple of mid-major jobs that he didn't take because he didn't feel comfortable. But he had a stretch of like 6 years where there was at least one job where he interviewed and was offered. And then he finally jumped on the Drake job. And now look at that. 2 years after leaving Maryville, Missouri, he goes to Iowa City.
Yep.
He could have gone to Morgantown.
Wonder if you're going to hear him complaining about how they don't have any money or they don't fund their basketball program or anything like that. He's used to it. He's like, this is perfect.
What if he came out and said, we don't need NIL? I just go and get players. And then we know how to play. We have an identity.
I prefer when coaches say stuff like that because, they this weekend on top of the basketball and everybody is going to be talking about how there were no upsets and why and all of those things.
What's NIL come?
The other thing was coaches complaining about things.
Yes.
All weekend. We have 4 clips from this weekend that we're going to play on the show today of coaches saying Mick Cronin went under the radar, but Mick Cronin hates traveling. He hates even for the NCAA tournament. He's like, we have to take this horrible, horrible charter flight back to the West Coast. This is going to be awful, awful. And so he was one of them. My favorite was Kelvin Sampson. Don't call me Kevin, and don't say Gonzaga. I think people should heed his advice on that one.
He wasn't angry, but did you guys see, and I didn't know this was a thing, the Matt Painter post-game press conference in Providence, where
What did he say?
There was a reporter that said this is a tradition, and Painter had no idea what he was talking about, and so Painter stood up, and this guy threw him a Frisbee. Like, look it up.
Oh.
It's so awkward. You have no idea what's going on, but this reporter is playing catch with Matt Painter and a Frisbee. And he said it's a tradition. Painter has been to the Sweet 16 a lot
like
lately.
a Matt Painter tradition or that
I have no
reporter
idea.
tradition?
Painter's look was like, what is this? And then the guy just flipped him a Frisbee. And so Painter catches it with 2 hands, like he claps it, and then he throws it back to him.
Okay, I'm watching the video now. He's at the press conference mic. He's looking like he doesn't know what's going on. Stands up, catches the Frisbee and tosses it back. What a tradition! Oh, he got it back for a second time. They're actually playing catch. Wow, I did not know about this tradition. Apparently, according to this website, Dan Hurley has taken part in the Frisbee tradition.
Wow.
I've never seen it before.
Yeah, I never heard of such a thing. Never heard of such a
But
thing.
it just shows, as I saw and you've seen before, they'll credential anybody.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. That NCAA tournament, Big Ten Media Days. Yeah.
Nico Medved officially at Minnesota.
There you go. A couple good hires there for Minnesota and Iowa, I think.
Hey, if you want a Power 5 job, go to Drake. The last 3 head coaches at Drake now are in the Big Ten.
Yep. So where do they go next? Where do they dive into?
I say South Dakota State.
Mr. Henderson.
Eric Henderson would be a great fit in Des Moines.
Yeah. I saw Chris Crutchfield's name pop up on a list.
I did.
Oh.
I saw it too.
It's good to have your name pop up on a list.
It is.
Well, that list. Not every list, but those lists. Yeah.
Important clarification.
Yeah, so Sean writes in tags this tweet. Apparently, Dan Hurley did the Frisbee thing last year too.
That is so random.
That's so odd.
Of all the things.
Placat says it's a dunk / amp thing. It's a Providence thing. You wouldn't get it.
They have a lot of things there. You have to ask Bishop.
What's the food in Providence?
Okay.
Is it like oysters?
A lot of like seafood and stuff.
Yeah.
I was told it's a big pastry town.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
But they have so I was with Jordan, who's associate athletic director, who's the FDU kid.
Yep.
But he's from New Jersey. So they have a place called Sal's Pizza, and they serve it in a long box. You know how
Providence
the triangle. So is that true?
I don't know.
So he said it's a New Jersey style where it's not like the triangular box that you get like with the Val's pizza in it.
Wow, look at that.
It is a
Providence style
long-
pizza, also known as pizza strips
Okay, so that's what it is.
or bakery pizza.
$13 for a slice.
A rectangular thin
Whoa.
crust pizza topped with tomato sauce, and often a dusting of Romano cheese served at room temperature.
Oh my!
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
They
Lot
don't
going on there.
They don't believe
Hey,
in the ovens.
$13 for that.
A room temperature long pizza.
If I'm paying $13 for a slice, you're heating it up.
The pizza style has roots in Rhode Island's Italian-American bakeries, where it was often made using leftover bread dough. So it's like almost a focaccia kind of crust, and then they make pizza on it, and it's room temperature. Odd.
Yeah.
Odd.
But there were lines of people to get it. I think it would be an acquired taste.
You're in Providence. You got to try it, right?
Absolutely. Taste the town.
Coffee and pastries is what I was told is that Providence and seafood that they are known for.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, and that's all. That's
That's
I
right.
mean, Dunkin' is. You know what? We have a Dunkin' in Omaha.
Yeah, but started up there.
There is two things also I learned is I'm not the only one that still calls it the Dunk.
Good.
No, you have to call it the Dunk.
And then they miss Ed Cooley, but you can't say it out loud.
No,
Because you might end up because
you can't say that.
Rhode Island is a big mafia town. You might end up like out in the ocean.
Oh,
Yeah.
Have the gas man come after you.
How they know I got gas? I'm sad the Providence jokes are over for the year. We'll bring them back in November.
Well, Big East baseball.
They don't have baseball.
They don't have a
Damn.
baseball team.
All right, I tried, guys.
Hey, did you know that Doris Burke played basketball at Providence?
No.
We went. And
She in the Hall of Fame?
She's up on they retired her number 11. She played there 83 to 87.
Like Kalkbrenner.
We went to we practiced in their
Maybe that's why
in
Kalkbrenner
their
did it.
gym where the women play in volleyball. Really, really nice. They have some really nice athletic facilities. School is like got some old buildings, and then like the athletic facilities are like brand new. But yeah, her jersey is up in the rafters.
Wow. Doris Burke.
Saw Kim English.
Yeah, he was just around.
I think he had just left his office after Bryce Hopkins put his name in the portal.
Was somebody saying how attractive he was when you were around?
They did not, but it is curious how teams will help each other with scouts.
Oh yeah. I was actually thinking about that though this weekend. Like, do you think Crutch called Mac?
I don't know, and that's one thing I didn't get to ask. Like I asked, hey, did Providence give you guys anything? Because Crutch knows Kim, and he wouldn't say.
I would imagine there's a lot of that. I don't know who like. Well, clearly Pat Kelsey didn't call anybody.
No, which was just embarrassing.
Pat Kelsey did not call anybody. He's like, we got this. Don't worry. See that big tall guy? Let's just go after him the entire game.
Which
weird.
You would think maybe you'd flip on the film and maybe scout Creighton. They're like, you know what? Number 11 in the middle. Most people in the Big East avoid him.
They're like, what's this drop coverage?
Why do we think that all of a sudden we should go right at him?
I heard he's just tall. Just go at him.
He's gonna foul you. No, he's not. No, he's not.
I got nothing else from Providence.
Okay.
It was long. It's emotional. It's just I was started our show like this. Like with the tournament, there's such a buildup for college basketball. I don't know if you feel like this in football, but in the tournament, you have this 5+ month buildup, and then it's just over. Like when you lose, you're done. They get you the hell out of the city. The TV goes immediately to the studio show. Yep. They start changing the floor to make it from first round to second round.
It's just over.
Like it's just you're forgotten about, and it's like, okay, we're on. You're not one of the 48 that are remaining.
Right? Yeah, those teams that play like in the first game in the round of 32, and they advance to the Sweet 16. They're like, oh yay, get off the court. There's another game coming up after that.
Oh,
Creighton last year when they beat Oregon had the last game of the night, so they got to kind of hang out for a little while. But that was. Yeah, I was super weirded out by that.
Like the guys from High Point were saying, so they played the first game of the day, which still wasn't until 12:40 Eastern time. I don't know why the Providence pod didn't go first, like they did on Saturday. But the High Point guys were saying that if they lose, they have to be out of the hotel by 7, and they'd be back in North Carolina by like 10 o'clock.
Dude.
They go, we will be back. I will be one of the assistant coaches
You're home for dinner.
who was just pounding shots one night in the bar. So I got to know him. He said, I will be back at my house by the time you guys start.
It's ridiculous.
But when you lose, the NCAA wants to get you out of there as soon as possible because they don't want like any guys like going out on the town. Season's over. Let's just let it rip.
So you guys,
okay, I guess that makes sense.
You guys stayed on Thursday night?
Yeah. So because we didn't leave because you also, after the game is over, your locker room is open for an hour.
Right.
Even if there's no media.
Yep.
So you have to,
Just be
so
there.
the game ends. So our game didn't end until like 12:05 local. Then you have an hour, like you have 15-minute cooling off period, I think. And then you have an hour. We did not leave the arena until like 1:30.
Jeez.
And when they left, they weren't sure what exact time we were going to leave Providence. But the travel, I mean, try being the person that does travel for 68 teams for men, and then you got to do it for women.
The good thing, I guess, for the individual teams is that it's basically just out of your hands. They tell you.
Well, and like Creighton probably travels better during the regular season than they do during the postseason.
Probably.
Omaha didn't find out when we were leaving until 9:00 Monday night. KU, which has a longer trip, didn't find out until 10:00 Monday night what their travel was to Providence.
Oh my God.
Because they've got to figure out the planes. There's only so many like charter planes that are available to haul teams all across the country. Now, St. John's had a bus because it was under a certain mileage.
Yeah.
But it's like it's all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, I guess credit to them. They find a way to get it done. Sometimes the planes, are late or they're out of gas or something like that.
And you're lucky enough not to be on Allegiant.
Yeah.
Creighton and Omaha left at the same time on Tuesday. We were both on Sun Country.
Sun Country. Nice.
That's what the Reavers like.
They
got available planes.
So the Twins have used that in the past because it'll go from Florida to Minnesota. It's a good charter. I mean, it's a regular airline, but they have charter planes. I didn't know that Allegiant had, because Allegiant Airlines, like normally,
not flying out
for
of
them
Grand
then to
Island.
have a charter plane, I could see why Mick Cronin was like angry.
Yeah. And he stays angry, that's for sure. All right. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Done. And enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
How was you guys' bracket? Good?
It was good. I mean,
You went all chalk?
there wasn't a lot of stuff going on.
Decent.
Yeah.
I mean, I predicted there to be some upsets, so it's not perfect. I'm not Joey.
How long did he last? He got to fourth?
He said he was like 22-0 at one point.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Of course, of all the people in the building, it would be him.
Yeah, of
Savant.
course. Yeah, he gets it.
All right, have a good day, guys.
All right, that's Crossover powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. It is Monday. We'll start things off next.
That's the Crossover. The Connor Happer Show is next on 1620 The Zone.
Mainly cloudy and mild for your Monday. Slight chance of a spot shower or sprinkle in the afternoon and evening, though most stay dry. Highs around 60. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV Newswatch 7.
Is your concrete cracked or uneven? Hey everyone, Coach Greg McDermott here to explain why you should choose Everlevel Concrete Repair. Many people think they need to replace broken concrete, but repairing it provides durable protection and comes at a fraction of the cost. Everlevel provides permanent repair solutions to fix your concrete and protect it against future damage, and it all comes with a long-term transferable warranty. They offer free inspections to walk you through the entire process. Call Everlevel Concrete Repair today.
It's the Connor Happer Show. Are we sure we want to do this?
Could you, make an announcement that we're ready?
It's the Connor Happer Show on 1620, The Zone.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Happy Monday. It's the Connor Happer Show here on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer, Josh Hodson with you, back from a long weekend of basketball. Let's see if we can remember how to do radio. A radio show. I've been doing a lot of radio, but not a lot of radio shows.
Expert broadcast of a Creighton baseball doubleheader yesterday.
Many Creighton baseball games. Creighton, 3 of them over the weekend. Creighton took 2 out of 3, by the way, from St. Mary's. And they'll start the Dodge Street Derby with Omaha tomorrow.
I like that name. That's a good name.
I think that's the one we're going with, right? Okay, we'll go with that. You'll be able to hear that game on 1180 The Zone.
What?
Yeah. Starts at 5 tomorrow. 5 p.m.
5. Don't want it to get chilly.
Hey, both teams are here. They're in town. Let's just play ball. Sounds good. We'll be there tomorrow evening. But this is not about baseball. This is not a baseball show. Unless you want to talk about Husker baseball, which is 2-7 in the Big Ten. Ouch. What's going on?
Club team.
With Husker baseball. They're in big trouble right now. The other thing that happened at the NCAA tournament this weekend is that it has made Husker fans wonder if the whole basketball thing is even worth it. That was the discussion amongst Husker Nation this weekend. Very healthy.
Very weird.
Perfect. On the right here in front of spring ball. Nebraska will have their first of 15 practices today. Today. And then Matt Rule will speak tomorrow as spring ball gets underway. We'll talk.
Are we back?
I view this as the start of it's the start of the end.
Okay.
We're coming down off of a crescendo, I think, right? Tournament, first weekend of the tournament is huge. We'll have baseball obviously through June here in 1620 The Zone. And then, yes, it will be the summer. But there is some football mixed in. We'll have that throughout this week. We'll talk about Creighton basketball, winning a game in the NCAA tournament and then losing a game in the NCAA tournament. Shout out to Pat Kelsey. Guy rules. He's a great coach. He's like, let's go. Kalkbrenner, we'll go right at that guy.
I think I will say the one thing I cannot say to this official as he runs by me.
Yeah,
What's the worst that could happen?
Can't get a T there, bro. Can't do it. I know he's from Grand Island, but you can't get a T there. You know, people were really they had their antennas up when the ref from Grand Island teed up the Louisville coach in a game against the Omaha team.
Oh yeah, a lot of people were.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now what for Creighton basketball? Tom Chattel explores. Talk about that as the show goes on. The NCAA tournament lacks a little bit of oomph in the first weekend, and there is no reason why. Narratives be damned, Josh. We will end the narratives today.
Sometimes you get a boring-ass Super Bowl.
Sometimes you get a boring-ass Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl of basketball is the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, and it wasn't great. We had one buzzer beater. We had to wait till last night. Did the guy travel?
Who cares?
I thought in the moment it was like, oh, he probably traveled, but you know how many times guys travel and don't get called for it? No, everyone travels the instant they get the ball nowadays.
Everyone turned into their dad watching Colorado State, Maryland
That's
last
too
night.
many steps.
Travel.
That's 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Coaches take to the podium over the weekend to yet again complain about their situations, including but not limited to Kevin Willard, Will Wade, Ben McCollum, Sean Miller, Tom Izzo, Mick Cronin, Kelvin Sampson, Rick Pitino. Many viral coach moments over the weekend. I do not care about the manager from McNeese. We have to talk about this throughout the show today.
Great take.
And then, of course, we'll play about we'll look at our conferences and how they did over the weekend, because that's the game that everybody likes to play. Which conference reigns supreme, as easily evidenced by the NCAA tournament. We spend all year talking about how the NCAA tournament is all about matchups, and then all we talk about at the end of the first weekend is what conference went 6-1 or something like that.
And then Seth Davis hops on Twitter and says,
"Stop hopping on Twitter, Seth Davis. Stop tweeting. This is why you expand the tournament.
They have so many teams. Of course they're going to lose some games."
Elsewhere on the show today, we'll talk to Mike Schaefer at the bottom of the 11 o'clock hour, Sam McKewon at 1. That's the lineup powered by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Want to hear from you guys, 402-951-1620. On the hotline, you can call or text that number, tweet at Happer Show at Connor Happer on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed, email Connor or Josh O at 1620thezone.com on the Equitable Bank Zone inbox. And we say good morning to the YouTube streamers today. I missed you all dearly.
Oh, so dearly.
I was happy to be welcomed back right at the start of the show by a couple of people who are like, wow, the Happer Show is back. And some people in the YouTube stream heard the Humpty Hump.
Yeah. Some people on the radio, I think, too.
I don't know what that
I don't know
was.
why that was playing.
Did you turn the Humpty Hump pot up again, or did we fix that?
It ran its course.
All right. Now it's just empty?
Yeah.
It's Humpty Hump or nothing.
Maybe that was the song Jimmy came back with for the final segment of Gary and Matt, and it was still playing when I got in here.
Well, you got to put the Humpty Hump on repeat.
It's a fine song.
Yeah.
Who among us hasn't gotten busy in a Burger King bathroom?
Well, you got to mix in a little Humpty Hump every now and then.
It's Monday.
That's what people are saying. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. There's plenty to sift through from the weekend, and we're excited to get to it all here on the Connor Happer Show as we take our first break on 1620 The Zone.
Upon further review, the host's last statement was deemed to be somewhat comical. Somewhat. The Connor Happer Show returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search.
All right, welcome back. More of the Connor Happer Show. You're on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. This is a good time. One of the viral sensations of the weekend was McNeese State manager Amir Aura Khan. We're calling people Aura now.
Yep.
Was it ever a good story in the first place? Basically, this whole thing derived from the McNeese State manager carrying out a boombox and rapping along to the lyrics of a song as he leads McNeese State out of the basketball tunnel. And now, I guess he becomes a viral sensation. And I can't get away from this guy now. Somebody said over the weekend that he's got deals worth up to millions of dollars. Millions of dollars.
For what?
I don't know. For people to talk, for him to talk about products. I don't know. I haven't seen any of this.
Immediately.
Somebody said 8 figures. Like $10 million?
Look, businesses, you're wasting
8 is $10
your
million, right? $10 million.
That would be 8
7 figures is $1 million. 8 is $10 million.
Right.
That's too many $1 million.
Yes.
I'm all about people getting rich. I like when people are happy. I think it's great. But I don't know how this happened.
Literally,
maybe I'm just jealous. Why didn't it happen to me?
Well, that could be part of it. The first thing out of Will Wade's mouth after I'm leaving for NC State is, and I'm taking that huge dork with me.
How about Will Wade just telling the truth over the weekend?
Yeah, no, I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
We'll deal with that. We'll deal with that, I guess.
I like it. That was refreshing.
Yeah, I think so too. It's probably better off than well, I suppose now's a good time to play the Ben McCall. Okay, but on the Amir guy, you're with me, Josh? You're done with him?
Yes, I thought I was on an island all weekend, so thank you for saying.
I just don't know
Thank you for your courage and your bravery.
I don't know how many people have said it out loud yet.
That guy's a dork.
It's got to be coming, right? I mean, it's dork. We love dorks, lovable dorks. They're great,
Sure.
but we just don't need to be. We don't need to be drowning in the Amir Khan. Also, what are we doing with the word aura? Why are we calling people aura?
It's the new Riz. Riz is what old white people say.
Yeah, Riz is old
Aura
now, and
is
aura
cool.
is the thing.
Like,
Okay.
no, this guy's a dork. Like, it's
That's okay. I
there
love
used to
dorks.
be a social hierarchy, and that guy got stuffed in every locker in high school.
Sort of feel bad for him in a way. You know, he didn't ask for any of this,
I think he did.
but now I guess he has.
Hey guys. I
guess he has upwards of $10 million now.
Tell everyone how cool I am. I'm gonna hold this boom box.
Kenneth says, "Don't look at his old tweets." Oh no, have we done this?
We do it with everyone.
Oh no. That can't be good.
Andrew makes a great point. Yeah, he was with Spike Lee. Spike Lee was like, I have to talk to this guy.
Spike Lee, the perfect person to be right around that guy, because Spike Lee has never once cared about St. John's basketball before.
Never.
But he found a cool St. John's jacket.
Yeah, it was a cool jacket.
And then started going to all the games, starting with the Big East final and then ending in the second round of the NCAA tournament. He went to 3 games.
Three games.
He went to 3 games. But at least he saw the Mavs play, I think.
Spike Lee has seen an Omaha Mavericks game.
Spike Lee has seen more Omaha Mavericks game than some Omaha Mavericks fans this season. Spike Lee, Josh.
You saw a Creighton game, an Omaha game.
Yeah, that's right. And Amir Ora Khan has also seen more Omaha Mavericks games than some Omaha Mavericks fans.
I'm going to invest this money soundly.
What a great weekend. Excellent deal at the NCAA tournament for the Mavs, who fell. I got the water turned off a little bit in the second half by St. John's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It happens. Happens to the best of us. It can happen from time to time. So there was that piece of the puzzle this weekend. But the other thing that happened during the Mavs game is they were rolling through. They were talking about St. John's and their lack of NCAA tournament wins over the last 25 years. And they flashed a graphic up that said Nebraska with Tyronn Lue never.
Here's the longest streaks without an NCAA tournament win.
And on poor Tyronn Lue, the greatest, most well-known Nebraska basketball players of all time, he gets flashed up there. Oh my God, Tyronn Lue went to, what is that? Nebraska? And they've never won an NCAA tournament game. And this forced some portion of the Husker fan base to ask whether basketball is even worth it anymore.
Bold take.
Did you see the tweet from Corn Nation?
Trust me, I couldn't avoid it.
Serious question on a Friday. How many of you really care about this? I realize Nebraska wants to compete in every sport, but is that a reality in the current landscape? Why would we bother pumping money into this sport, basketball, when we have so many others that are more successful? I would argue that the money gives you the opportunity to be successful at whatever you'd like to be successful at, whatever you prioritize. It's a conversation that we'll have a little bit later on the show about, like I said, which, with all this football money coming in, and there's a lot of football schools that are into the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament, they'll be in. And then at the same time, you still have guys like Kevin Willard saying, why can't we stay an extra night in New York City? It's about what you prioritize. It's about what you prioritize. And so if you get all this new money and there's a bunch of football money to go around for everybody, and you decide you have to put it all into football to remain competitive and continue to get the football money, that's what you'll do. If you decided you want to be good at basketball, you'll put more money into that. If you decided you want to be good at baseball, you put more money into that, if you want. But we're about to find out. I mean, it's all about to be out on the table, Josh, for everybody this summer when the rev sharing stuff comes out.
FOIA.
Well, I think, I don't know. Maybe, but you'll have a pretty good idea because the percentages will be out there. And here's how much of the $20.5 million of revenue sharing money. And it's not just that, but that's a really good way to start. How much of that $20.5 million is going to football? How much of it is going to basketball? How much is going to women's basketball? And it's different percentages for every school. So it's a good opportunity for a place like Nebraska to sort of reset the deck and decide, oh, do we want to, pour money into this, and how much, and how much more can we be getting out of it right now, given the investment that we do put into it? It's a conversation for a little bit later in the show. But I did enjoy the discourse, or I guess I didn't really enjoy the discourse over the weekend about that. Flaky Jake writes in on Twitter.
Hi, Flaky Jake.
We have some of the dumbest fans in sports, man. What are we doing? How much money do you want to put into wrestling?
Well,
hello.
Runner up.
Yeah.
A couple of solo guys winning the natty.
Really happy for Mark Manning. Great guy.
Yes.
We love Mark Manning.
Also, just very quickly on that, I understand this is not important at all. Nebraska tweeting a picture of the runner-up trophy and saying, these are the best wrestlers in the country.
Hey, they did.
Some of them were the best wrestlers in the country.
Yes.
But you did not win the team title.
Chris happens to agree, by the way, with Corn Nation on Nebraska basketball even being worth it from the Equitable Bank inbox.
Oh.
I can absolutely and unequivocally say that answer is no, and it is not. It hasn't been for 40 years. Shut it down and buy better football players. I don't think the Corn Nation guy was out on an island when he said that. Although...
No, that's the puzzling thing.
He was appropriately ratioed on Twitter, but yeah. So we'll cover all that as we go on throughout the show today. So what did we learn? We are done with the Aura guy, and everybody's done with them, I guess, until NC State makes a run in the next NCAA tournament. And basketball, is it even worth it at Nebraska?
Now, when I said they were canceled, I didn't mean
like actually canceled.
I want them to continue playing basketball at Nebraska.
Gosh, you have to move your cancellation focus over to a different sport.
Baseball.
Yeah.
Rough.
Whoa.
I know. Tough schedule.
Whoa.
You need to get hot, and you need to get hot.
Oh, yeah.
now.
It's real tough. Having it 2 weeks on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Real tough.
Well, not spiritually tough.
All right, we're back after this to talk about all the events of the weekend from the dance here on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Let's get back to the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
All right, welcome back. We're the Connor Happer Show. You're on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. The Creighton Blue Jays, they win a game in the NCAA tournament. Their 9th win in the NCAA tournament in the last 5 years. And lose in the second game to Auburn.
Losers.
Auburn, more like Falburn.
That is an accurate assessment.
We have to talk about this from just generally from over the weekend. The differences in the way that conferences are officiated. And then when we get to the NCAA tournament, how everything changes. Because there's new officials from different affiliated conferences from the teams that are playing who haven't seen the length or physicality or the styles of play from either team. And you get these wonky results in terms of who gets called for what and fouls and all this stuff in between. So that could be a bigger conversation as well. But let's focus in on Creighton for a second. Played the first game against Louisville on Thursday in Lexington. First game in the NCAA tournament. Was nervous, very nervous beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it a little bit on Wednesday before we departed, and it was kind of like, I don't know. It feels like it's gonna be a toss-up. But my initial thought when I saw the bracket was, I don't know that Louisville's that great, but
they were playing really well down the stretch.
They were playing really well, and obviously they were seated 2 lines, too low from what their resume said. But I thought, generally, Creighton could beat that team. And turns out, I guess, should have just stuck with that idea. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know. Obviously, Creighton shut the lights out, right? And we were kind of waiting for a game throughout the season where Creighton would be able to put it together and really, really shoot it well. And it was all clicking in the first half against Louisville. But offensively, for them, they just kept going after Kalkbrenner. And it's not like they have a bunch of above the rim guys, but I mean, it was just from my standpoint, I just felt like it was a coaching mismatch.
Yeah.
Like I said, Creighton made shots, and that's always going to make it look a little bit better. But I mean, they made Chucky earn everything that he got. Creighton got it going from 3. That was a heck of a satisfying NCAA tournament win for Creighton. And then
a lot of different ways that game could have played out. I didn't see Creighton winning big, one of them.
Yeah. How are you going to take a T, Pat Kelsey? How are you going to take a T right there? Louisville is just closing the gap. Where's this game going to be when the under 4 timeout hits? And things are tightening up. It's the NCAA tournament, and you don't know how it's going to look. Or maybe that was just from the standpoint of Creighton fan where you're like, nothing is comfortable. Nothing is safe. We're just counting down the seconds until we get to 0. But then Pat Kelsey got a technical foul for saying something to the official, and Stephen Ashworth made 2 free throws, and then they got a bucket on that same possession, a 4-point possession, and you just felt like, oh, deep breath. I don't know what Louisville was up to. It looked like a team who didn't necessarily understand kind of what Creighton was all about. And frankly, you could look at, you look at Creighton and you look at their lack of athleticism and all that stuff. And you might think it might be an easy team to underestimate. Even though their resume is good and they finished second in the Big East, and they got second in the Big East tournament, and they've been a very consistent program for the last, however many years now, especially over the last 5 with Ryan Kalkbrenner, and the multitude of the cast of characters that have been around him over the last 5 years. But it might be a team that you just kind of take lightly, right? But there is so much to them where they have just a really, really good understanding of who they are, what their limitations are, and the specific areas of given games where they need to win. It's a math equation, as I always say with them. So they know that they're not going to turn teams over very much. And so they know that they're not going to get extra possessions with the basketball. So they have to shoot a bunch of threes, and hopefully they make enough to be able to make that math equation work out in their favor. And then they have the ultimate safety net in Ryan Kalk. They had the ultimate safety net in Ryan Kalkbrenner, which is that's going to be weird. But I think you look at them and you're like, yeah, I don't know. I think we can kind of go right at them. Just look at their personnel. You know, I don't see what's so special about them. As long as we don't let him get heated up from three, and as long as Jemiah Neal doesn't go off against us, he's kind of the X factor.
Whoops.
Yeah, that didn't work out either, did it? How about Jemiah, who I'm so glad that he has really talked openly over the last week and a half here about his time at Creighton, and nobody knew what he was going to be at first. You thought, oh, I'm taking this like 30% 3-point shooter, and you need him to be the kind of one of the go-to scorers for you out of the transfer portal. Like what's going to happen here? He just doesn't seem like a Creighton guy. There's a lot of volume, and it just doesn't seem like it. But he absolutely and definitively bought into the process, and it became a fan favorite. I mean, I tweeted it out on Friday, because I think John Walker wrote a pretty good story on Jemiah and his sort of journey, and it was like he's absolutely become he's a guy, and we said this throughout the year. He's a guy that we said throughout the middle of the year, I don't know what the eligibility rules are anymore, but if you could find a way to get him one more year, everyone says yes. Everyone says yes. And that was absolutely not the thought on him at the beginning of the season. It wasn't. It was like, I don't know what you're going to get from him. Like, hopefully, yeah, he gets better shots, but he bought in. And I mean, using that example right there is a really good testament to what Greg McDermott will always do. So when you think about what Creighton is going to, and we'll talk about the Auburn game in a second, when you think about what Creighton is going to be going forward, obviously they have building blocks and McAndrew and Fedor and Jason Green, and like they have those guys that are going to be around, and everybody's really excited about McAndrew because he had a great game against Auburn and shot the crap out of the ball. Really shot the crap out of the ball for the last 2 weeks of the season. And including in the Big East tournament and then in the NCAA tournament in 2 games there. You have your building blocks, but then it was like, okay, what are they going to be without Kalkbrenner and Ashworth? And Mac sort of explained, or he laid it out after losing to Auburn on Saturday. It was, what are we going to be without Nembhard? What are we going to be without Kaluma? What are we going to be without Doug? What are we going to be without, Tyshawn? What are we going to be without Kyrie Thomas? What are we going to be without Marcus Foster? So whatever, it's like you're trying to convince everybody in the transfer portal, put it on a billboard somewhere, that if you come to Creighton, if Mac has identified you as a player that could, or a person and a personality that could fit in the Creighton system and buy into the process, you will leave better. It is the best possible compliment you could give to a coach, especially in this day and age where there's constant movement and everybody's going to different places and everybody's kind of out for their own thing. But I mean, Creighton is a place where, you can obviously come and have success, but it's a program, like that's a great selling point, because it needs to be. And I know Chattel wrote about like what's in the future in rev share and NIL and stuff like that. And obviously there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to be new and different coming out of this era, and not only this era of how college athletes are handled, but how, you've had Ryan Kalkbrenner just in the middle of everything for the last 5 years, but everything is going to be different. But Creighton needs to cut out its, thing, and its thing is focus and execution and being deliberate and being calm, and like it's all stuff that just carries throughout whatever style of basketball you're playing. So I wouldn't be surprised next year if they went back to a little run and gun and started letting it fly a little bit more. But you don't know until you understand what the pieces are. Maybe they get a big out of the portal and he is just a replacement Kalk or something like that. I wouldn't count on it. That guy's one of one, as we've seen. But there should be a confidence there from the college basketball world or from Creighton fans, whatever, because I've seen a lot of hesitancy about it. It's like, oh boy, what are we going to do without that guy in the middle? He was such a safety net. I'm not trying to minimize the impact of him, but there's a guy who bought into his role and got better and came back for a 5th year and got even better and bought into his role again, a different role, right? He's always been surrounded by good players, and then he kind of had to run the show his 5th year. But like I said, it's a good lesson to everybody in the college basketball world that says we are going to find a way to make the math work for us. Not that you're going to be in the NCAA tournament every year, not that you can guarantee being in the Sweet 16 every year. We've been spoiled around here. But winning a game with this team, and people, after Georgetown were like, oh my, where is this headed? Pops out for the season. I don't know what. You could convince me of any result.
Vibes were bad.
And unfortunately, I think, that part of the non-con resulted in them getting the seed that they got, which resulted in them getting the number 1 overall seed in the second round of the NCAA tournament, which is not good. But you could make the case. I mean, you could make the case that, both Creighton and UConn, really, that if they don't run into 1 seeds in their second games, they're playing good enough basketball at this point in the season that they probably get past anybody else but 1 seeds. Right? That I know non-Creighton fans are going to be like, oh my God, give me a break here. But I really think as well as they were playing that could have been the case.
I would have liked to have seen a matchup against a different team in the
right
round of 32.
Right.
For sure.
So
even though no Big East team made the Sweet 16, Connor, I don't know if you knew that. It means the Big East sucks.
I did know that.
Mid-conference.
I was aware. 1 less than the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
So against Auburn, clearly physically overpowered, overmatched, but shot the 3 well, stayed in the fight for a long time, and then Auburn kind of just fouled their way to a win. They were worse than St. John's. They were worse than St. John's at fouling, especially Broom. They didn't even try to hide it. Broom was all over the place with his arms, flailing his arms around, reaching in and stuff like that, leaning on Ryan Kalkbrenner, but whatever, it's the NCAA tournament. You're at the mercy of whatever whistle you get in any given moment. And Creighton probably needed a little bit of a tighter one in order to stay in that game, although they did go into the bonus like halfway through the second half in that game. But you have an NCAA tournament win in your back pocket with that team, and you felt like, all right, let's just roll the dice out there and see what happens for the second game. If we get to the Sweet 16 for the 4th time in 5 years, what a testament it is to the program. But still, it's nice and it's satisfying and it's almost wholesome and complete in a way that it ended the way it did. I didn't feel like there was much left out on the table, given the matchups that were out there. Given specifically the Auburn. Maybe there's a scenario where things break right and you get a different matchup in that game specifically, but it feels like that would have been the expectation going in. Win an NCAA tournament game, get to the NCAA tournament, win an NCAA tournament game, you're a 9 seed. And I feel like it feels complete coming out. It doesn't feel like it did in 2014 with Doug and they were a 3 seed and lost.
Right.
They were bludgeoned by Baylor in the second round and didn't get to the Sweet 16. Like it doesn't feel as painful as that. You could take some real good things out of what this season was and really what the era was of Creighton basketball. And I was glad that Mac, did a really good job at subbing, each guy out kind of one by one, giving them their hugs and allowing Creighton fans to kind of applaud them as it became pretty inevitable that they were going to lose that game.
That was a nice moment in a bad situation.
Yeah, I feel like it was a complete season.
You went out on your sword. Guys got better throughout the year.
Did they or did they not meet or exceed expectations? I know the expectation thing is a moving target.
It is.
It's always a moving target. It depends on, what you are at any given moment and what you're ranked and the pedigree goes into that, right? They come into the preseason like a top 15 team.
given how I felt on January 4th or whatever, like, yeah, they exceeded.
I think so.
Yeah, sure.
I think so. I mean, grinding out the wins the way that they did, and finding a way to sort of come together. It just felt like they, for the most part this year, were getting more out of it than the sum of their parts. They were greater than the sum of their parts, and they were, I don't know, they were exceeding or beating expectations kind of at every turn. I didn't expect them to go to the Big East final, especially after going to double overtime with DePaul.
Right.
Not that that's like a giant accomplishment for the program. They've done it 5 times and haven't won a Big East final now. Like, maybe the next step is to ask for a win in a Big East final or something like that. But with this team and the way it was constructed, I just feel like you got not the most possible out of it. You didn't drain every little piece of moisture out of the rag there, but I think you got pretty close. And that's saying something, given that they had an all-time great, in the middle there.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be asking what if for years to come.
Yeah. So O-Trip says
O-Trips.
Preseason expectations slightly under. But like, how do you feel at the end? This is what I always say, and we talk about it with Husker football all the time. At the end of the season, do you want to play? How quickly do you want to start the next season? Right? How do you feel about the group right now? And obviously the next season is going to bring a lot of different things. But like I make the comparison to Nebraska in 2018 in Frost's first year, when they lost their first 6 and they won 4 out of their last 6 to go 4-8. And yes, they had a close loss to Iowa, but it was like, I need the next seasons to start right now. I feel great about the positioning of the program. I can't wait to see what's next. And I don't know that I feel exactly that, like, it's not like the, hype train is going to be so far off the rails, although you do have a building block like you did in Adrian Martinez and Jackson McAndrew, and, people are really excited about what he did in the last 2 weeks of the season. But, it feels complete. I'm not saying I'm dying for next season to start right now, but there are some seasons where you're in and you're just like, I need a break. I need a break. I don't feel that way. I can't remember the last time I felt that way with Creighton basketball.
I stood up after that game ended. I went, oh well, good job. Good effort.
Yeah, I know.
Turned the TV off and I was like, okay.
It's weird for a program with such big aspirations and being in the Elite Eight and winning, winning a Big East title or sharing a Big East title and whatever, like a 3 seed a couple times, a program that is absolutely nationally relevant. They win one game in the NCAA tournament and you're like, you know what? That was probably okay. Maybe you could have squeezed, like I said, maybe you could have squeezed one more out of it if you got the right matchup in that second game. But, I think you feel okay. Kenneth says they could have won the national championship if that foul never gets called. Oh, it's something that many people think about every day.
I don't feel like that.
No.
Right now.
No. I don't know what the feeling was after that game, except for anger about that for multiple weeks. Nothing about next season for a long, long time after that. But it's a good run. I mean, in an era most certainly comes to an end. So when people ask the question, what is it going to look like going forward? I really don't have too many concerns. I mean, Creighton has to find a way to, how to figure out the money from a perspective of how to position themselves the best. But I think as long as they got that coach, you're gonna be able to find a way to get the best out of whatever you have. Maybe not every single year. Who knows? There's always an adjustment period. But I just, there's this confidence of like they're gonna do whatever it is they plan on doing. Like I said, it's not gonna be, they're not gonna sit there and play drop coverage next year and try and funnel everything into Kalk, and he's not going to foul anybody. Like, he's not going to be there next year. That'll be a giant hole in your lineup. And
we've confirmed this. He is not going to
no
be there
more
next
eligibility.
year.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Even though eligibility is a construct.
Eligibility is a construct, but well, I don't think he would probably even want to do a third senior day at this point. But
I'll come back, but I'm not doing that.
That'll be a giant hole in a big presence that'll be missed next year. But they'll adapt and they'll change the way that they play, and they'll get new players out of the transfer portal. And I think generally, like I said, how you outwardly face in the college basketball world is we are in good position. We are a healthy program. We are a basketball first program. And so everything that happens in our athletic department from a success level, basketball has to be first. And then everybody else, comes off of that. Now I know every sport kind of lives in their own sort of world, but no doubt about it, basketball is going to get the best treatment and facilities and money and investment that's put into their program, both from an NIL standpoint and from an athletic department support standpoint. Like sometimes you have to make decisions on where you put that stuff. And Creighton is a basketball first place, and they have a great coach who will absolutely get the best out of you. And it's just up to him to pick the right players to bring into the program and to find the right style of basketball that works for them. There will be a reincarnation, right? They will change, just as they changed from the Doug era, just as they changed from the Tyshawn, Kyrie Thomas, Justin Patton, Marcus Foster, just as they changed from the Mo Watson, just as they changed from Marcus Zagorowski, and you build it around a guy. Is Jackson McAndrew a guy that you build a program around? Maybe. That's a question that'll have to be analyzed a little bit this summer.
I hadn't thought of that.
Depends on what you get out of the transfer portal and stuff like that. So there's questions, but I think you could take solace in the questions are going to get answered probably in a positive way. It's a program. And not
it's a program.
It is a pro. I don't say that as a joke. That is it is a program. And you have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be on a year in, year out basis. The floor has absolutely risen for Creighton basketball. No doubt about it. All right. So I got a couple texts here. By the way, is there anything on the YouTube that we should get to?
Yeah, one from Platcat, just on kind of the vibes after the loss. Had to get right in a car and start drive back from Louisville to Omaha. I don't think anyone said a word until we got to Illinois.
Whoa, Platcat, you went? Well, why were you in Louisville? Nothing was going on there.
I don't know.
It was in Lexington, maybe?
Maybe you watched it at Muhammad Ali's house.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't ask questions. Platcats everywhere.
Yeah.
Zach emails in.
Hi, Zach.
On the Equitable Bank inbox. Remember throughout the season when 16-20 the Big East homers would constantly take shots at the Big Ten, saying that the league wasn't very good, acting like the Big East was just as good, if not better. LOL. Those geniuses must really know ball. Great point, Zach. I'm an idiot. Self-admitted many times. This is something that we're going to talk about. The conferences and the conference cheering and all of these things during the show today, probably at the top of the noon hour. Because
Nebraska ball's still playing, baby.
Regardless of, I tried to say this when the Big Ten goes to the NCAA tournament and they have their yearly collapse, and everybody calls it the best conference on planet Earth, and they're just what happened? I always try to say guys, it's not really about that. When you get to the NCAA tournament, it's one game against one team, and you have to find a way to win that one game. It is not all that, indicative of how good your conference was. But we'd love to do this. We love to do this in the college football playoff now.
Crab 5.
Have you thought about this weekend how the college football playoff conversation now pretty closely mirrors the NCAA tournament conversation, and they're both equally annoying?
So people were saying this during the college football playoff, and I was like, oh, come on, guys. These are just basketball guys saying this. Everything's basketball to them. And then this weekend happened, and I went, oh, no, this is exactly what it was like during the college football playoff.
Yep.
I don't care for that.
No, I don't either. So we'll spend some time on that in the noon hour. Pedro writes in.
Hi, Pedro.
Hi, guys. Neil reminded me of the old Nebraska quarterback, Godowski. Played 1 year and he was gone. We wanted more seasons with him. What more than one season with Neil? Would have loved another season with Ryan Hawkins, too.
Oh, yeah. But
guys who he's picked the right guys to come into his program, and you're looking at it and you're like, is Creighton going to really be led by a Division II transfer? Is that the idea for this team? Worked. Got more out of that team than we expected them to. Won a game in the NCAA tournament. Is Creighton really going to put all their chips on a transfer from Texas Tech and an undersized guard, and then he goes out for the season in December, and also a 30% 3-point shooter from Arizona State who's been playing at a completely different, in a completely different style of basketball over the last 3 years of his career? Yeah. And what do you know? He has the game of his life in, a couple times against UConn this year. Once on the road, once at the Big East semifinal, exclamated by a dunk, by the way. By the way, did you see the end of UConn's first game against Oklahoma?
I did watch that.
Hassan Diarra had a chance because he was the guy who ended up with the ball in his hands as the time was running out, and he was right at half court. And I'm like, go, dunk it, go, disrespect them, please.
It'll feel great.
And then square up against somebody. And it didn't happen. But, are we really going to put all our chips into Neil? Is this the guy that we're going to depend on? Works.
I like that guy.
I do. Jemai Neal is a hilarious person. He had the whole bit this year that people started to really find out about at the end of the season, where he would call Ty Davis and Jackson McAndrew his children. So I got to put the kids to bed. Got to put the kids to bed. But it was great to see him open up about how much this year is sort of meant for him. Once again, put it on a billboard, right? Like, have him be the walking testimony for everybody that comes into this program as a 1-year transfer going forward. Make that work for you.
It worked for me. It can work for you.
Jeff writes in, they're running the conference tournament might have come back to bite them. I don't know. I just think they got beat by a better team. Talking about Creighton.
Creighton wouldn't.
I don't think it.
They just can't physical like that.
From the perspective of, like, if they lose to DePaul in the first game, are they a 10? Maybe. I suppose you can make that case. But from the perspective of, like, are you tired? Nah. It's hard for everybody around this time of year.
Well, Stephen Ashworth is a father.
They got beat
He's
by a better
tired.
Team. Text from the 402.
Hi, 402.
Is there a chance Pop transfers out? There's always a chance, but what do you think? Section 220 boys.
Stand up.
There's always a chance. I haven't heard anything about that. So he's been with the team all year long. I wouldn't imagine that he goes anywhere, but you never know. Somebody could get a bag in the portal at any moment in time.
A bag, man?
At any moment in time.
Can we get a bag?
We're not in the portal, so no.
That's right. You got to file all that paperwork. I'm out.
Yeah. Too much clerical work.
Yeah.
All right, Mike Schaefer is going to join us on the other side. He's running a few minutes late, so if we if we have to wait a couple minutes, we will still get our weekly dose of Mike J. Schaefer. We'll find out how he enjoyed the basketball this weekend, and we'll look ahead to football, Josh. Spring ball in Nebraska.
Spring ball. All the Creighton fans have something to look forward to now.
Wow. See you in the fall wearing red, Creighton fans. Got him! Back after this on 1620 The Zone. Mike Schaefer is going to join us at the top of the hour now. He's in a meeting.
We love meetings, don't we, folks?
Meeting. So we'll just push Schaefer a little bit and give him some time to collect his thoughts, digest all the digestible information from a work meeting.
He'll be summarizing that meeting for us at noon.
Yeah, it's like, how's it going over at CBS? This, according to Opta Stats, this is the first time the Sweet 16 is composed entirely of major conference teams since the Sweet 16 officially began in 1975. This, 2025, is the first time the Sweet 16 has been composed entirely of major conference teams. Only 4 different conferences are represented. Every other Sweet 16 ever since 1975, since the Sweet 16 started existing, has had at least 7 conferences represented. So, your breakdown. 4 Big 12 teams, BYU, Arizona, Texas Tech, and Houston. 7 teams from the SEC, Alabama, Florida, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Auburn. 1 single team from the ACC, the Dukies. And 4 from the Big Ten: Maryland, Michigan, Michigan State, and Purdue. Everybody in the field is a 6 seed or below, with the exception of 1 10 seed coached by John Calipari. So, yep. Some people are asking, why, Connor? Why is this happening? It must be because of NIL.
It's got to be, right?
It must be because of the transfer portal, and all the things that we thought were going to happen with college sports are absolutely happening. This is the death. We have rued the day, and now the day is rude. This stinks. I hate that college basketball and football is so top heavy these days.
It's a great takes.
Guys, calm down.
No, this is the death of the sport, Connor. I will not be calm.
Let's calm down.
The sport I love.
Can we please calm down? We're just, I get it. It's a narrative that existed, and we want to apply the narratives to real life situations. But realize what you're saying when you're saying, hey, this has to be because of this. So this isn't changing anytime soon. Everybody agrees, right, that the big powers are just going to get more money and more powerful, and the big conferences will get more money and more powerful, more players, and all of these things. What you're saying is this is going to be like this forever. The whole thing with the NCAA tournament is randomness. It's a random thing. We just explained why at the start of the show. You have officials from different conferences who are seeing these teams play for the first time this year, different styles of basketball that are going up against each other, and unique and different coaching matchups, unique and different playing matchups, and it is random. It's the most random thing we have. And yet people still have the guts to say, oh no, this is just how it's going to be now. This is our lives. NIL, transfer portal, revenue sharing, conferences with their big money. They ruined everything, and now they ruined the NCAA tournament.
Hope you liked George Mason, St. Peter, and FAU.
Yep, this will never happen again.
It's over.
Guys. You want to hear the most annoying sound in the world? It's people having that take. And then it's me, the gas man in the car, saying, guys, calm down.
Pills are good.
Not every tournament has to have a buzzer beater every time.
Ugh.
Not every tournament has to be every single game is a banger. Not every NCAA tournament has to have a Cinderella go to the Elite Eight or the Final Four or the Sweet 16 for that matter. It doesn't have to be this way.
It'd be nice.
I know it would be nice, but I know this fits the narrative. I understand that.
Be nice if some of the games were competitive.
But once again, understand what you are saying when you are saying, this is it. You're telling me that this will never change. And the randomness of the NCAA tournament is gone. And there's just no way that I could definitively proclaim that. Regardless of whatever is out there in the landscape of the college football universe, college basketball universe right now, you could never get me to definitively say one thing about the NCAA tournament, the most random thing we have. People get pissed because it's the most random thing we have. People get mad when it's not the best teams in the Elite Eight and in the Final Four. I can't believe FAU is here.
Random champion generator.
I mean, Butler in the national championship game. That is completely ridiculous. Don't you want to see Duke against North Carolina every single year? And like people complain about
when we had that. That was awesome.
People complain about that all the time too. It's like, man, this is just crazy. When you got Michigan State and Duke and North Carolina and FAU. I mean, what an easy trip for UConn. You know, whatever it might be. So we complain about that, it being too random, and now we complain about it not being random enough. Guys, it's different every year. The SEC happened to have a really good year with a bunch of powerful teams that are all national championship, caliber teams. 1s and 2 seeds that are really, really good, obviously, at the top. There's no doubt about it. Like, I would just hold off before making any bold proclamations about what the future of the NCAA tournament holds. I would venture to guess that upsets and dudes like Doug Edert are not going anywhere.
Is it still the best 2 days in sports?
Well, I mean, it's hard to convince people of that after the first 2 days of this tournament, but I believe it is. I mean, part of what makes it part of what makes it the first part of what makes it the best first 2 days, the best 2 days in sports is that it's just on from sun up to sundown. Basically, I did watch the back end of the only episode of Price is Right that I will see all year long. Some lady guessed horribly on the Showcase Showdown. It was awful. And then I watched Creighton play in the NCAA tournament against Louisville. I just would caution people to overreact, just as I caution people to not overreact after this year's college football playoff, right? But we have to change the seating. The seating is wrong. And Indiana, should have never been where they were, and this team shouldn't have gotten a home game. And look at all of those teams who won those games in the first round and didn't end up winning their conference, didn't come from a place where they won their conference championship, but then were better positioned in the NCAA tournament, or in this case, the college football playoff, because of it. Like, just hold your horses. This thing will even itself out over a long period of time. And yes, is it possible that it's harder? Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Unequivocally, I could say that it's more difficult. But there will be mid-major coaches who are where do you think the coaches are going to come from? And where do you think the coaches who are going to fill the jobs at, who have already filled the jobs at Iowa and Minnesota come from? Mid-majors. Teams who won games in the NCAA tournament in Colorado State and Drake. Those guys aren't going to stop coming up. Right? So like there's going to continue to be these things. And so let's not overreact. Okay? Are we good?
Yeah.
Do you agree with me or do you disagree? Or are you saying this is it? The tournament is indeed canceled. You love canceling things, Josh.
This isn't exciting radio. I'm a wait and see.
That's okay.
This could be like it. This whatever stat. It hasn't happened since 1976 or something like that. That it's been all these conferences or whatever. Like, I think that might happen more and more. Obviously, not every year.
Yeah,
there will always be the dorks at McNeese State in the world.
Absolutely, there's going to be great stories.
Colorado State was.
I thought they were going to win last
travel
second.
away from.
Oh, non-travel, Josh.
Yeah, it was not. Yeah, but
that guy's from Baltimore.
Yeah, it was. Colorado State was right there. Drake was right there. Like.
Just didn't fall the mid-majors way this time. And now it's this huge thing. College basketball, the NCAA tournament is dead.
Mm-hmm.
It's canceled. I'd hold your horses. Quick phone call here from Josh before we get to the odd news. Hey, Josh, what's going on?
Hey, Connor, how you doing?
I'm good.
One comment. I don't completely disagree that this is maybe a bit of an overreaction like, society has a tendency to do. What I would say is those mid-majors there will be good coaches that win at the mid-major. There's no doubt. those mid-majors rarely win without juniors and seniors.
Yeah.
And I think the issue is now that people are saying when those good players are freshmen and sophomores, after their sophomore year, they're not going to make it anymore until their senior year. So the mid-majors are now just becoming feeder programs to the big dogs. As soon as somebody's really good at Robert Morris, they're gone. If somebody was really, I mean, UNO could be a perfect example. They could over-recruit and really hit it big on a couple recruits. That's going to be really tough to keep those kids.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Harder than it's ever been. And thanks for the call, Josh. But here's the thing. Like, good coaches are good coaches. UNO is a really good example. They lost their best player to the transfer portal who went to play at Michigan State this year.
Frankie Fiddler.
Frankie was making some plays last night for Michigan State. He's a really good player. UNO still went to the NCAA tournament this year.
But what if they had Frankie still?
And people are going to look at Markel Sutton in the transfer. And, you know, I don't know if he's going to go in the transfer portal, but people are going to look at Markel Sutton and say, that guy can play. But the good coaches are the good coaches. And they know, and players at that level who go into the mid-major level always have a little bit of a chip on their shoulders. Josh is right about when you are that type of team, you need to be older. There's also players who are coming from the high major level who bounce down and all of a sudden lead a team in the mid-major conference to the NCAA tournament. Of course it's harder. It's never been harder. No doubt about that. But are we never going to get a good, Cinderella in the NCAA tournament again because of what's happened in college sports? I'd say hold your horses. All right, we're back with the odd news coming up next on 1620 The Zone.
The Connor Happer Show. Follow us on Twitter @Happer Show for all the latest news and views. We may even say something interesting once in a while.
Unlikely.
Really, guys?
What if your limited inventory had unlimited potential? What if your biggest risk was not taking one? What if you could make every move matter? Bank of America's Business Solutions can help bring your biggest what-ifs within reach. Find out how our digital tools, cutting-edge insights, and trusted expertise
And now we've reached the point in the show where Josh Odson reads the peculiar, the bizarre, the comical, the odd news with Odd Son. Odd news, Odd Son. See what we did there? The odd news with Oddson.
Oh, it's been a long time, Josh, since I've heard any odd news.
Yeah.
I've heard no odd news for the last 5 days. So I've been fiending.
Well,
where's the odd news? Give it to me.
Here it is. My favorite story from the last however many days it's been since we've
5.
done a show.
5.
One of my enemies died over the stretch.
Oh, no.
Bryce Harper is dead, everybody.
No, he's not. No, don't say that.
I read it on social media.
I was going to say, I didn't know
Bryce Harper
George
is
Foreman
dead.
was one of your enemies.
No.
Okay.
Bob Nightingale may have made a boo-boo on Twitter over the weekend.
Oh, no. Really?
Yes. The USA Today columnist who often is an idiot on Twitter, whether it be through his own takes or typos, took it to a new level this time.
Really?
The news that San Diego Union Tribune columnist Bryce Miller had tragically passed away at 56 from bladder cancer had just started to surface. Nightingale, quoting an article, mistakenly wrote that Bryce Harper had died. It took him 4 minutes to fix the error.
Awful news. Bryce Harper, the talented and sharp-witted columnist for the San Diego Union Tribune, has passed away at age 56. Wow. Oh, man.
Now, obviously,
this is just a common mistake.
Yes,
I'm not
sure it was
mad
just
at Bob Nightingale.
His autocorrect, like he just thumbing through, you got to get the news out. You're an insider. You got to get the news out as quick as possible.
Yeah. I feel bad for the newsbreakers guys because, yeah, like you said, they're just ripping off tweets.
Arson Judge has joined the Giants.
Arson Judge. That's a John Heyman special. Yeah. So I'm glad. I'm sad that reporter passed away, but I am glad that Bryce Harper is still with us to do more cooking videos. Have you seen Bryce Harper's cooking videos?
I have. I would also.
He's making some real healthy stuff.
To go on the record, I too am happy that Bryce Harper is still alive.
Thank you, Josh. It takes a big man to say that.
It does. I just want him to continue playing and not winning any team.
It takes a big man to admit that they were wrong, and I am that big man. Josh Odson.
Let's go to spring training in Florida, where there was a lunar eclipse during a Blue Jays spring training game against the Phillies Friday at TD Ballpark in Dunedin, Florida, a place I have seen the Blue Jays play baseball in person.
Really?
I know. One fan behind the plate during the lunar eclipse.
Oh, that kind of lunar eclipse.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a lunar eclipse, Josh.
Well, no. That okay. I see.
The moon was out.
I thought he was doing it during a lunar eclipse.
The moon was out.
No, one fan mooned the camera.
Yeah, it was not during a lunar eclipse.
It was not. It's just a very clever headline in the. This isn't. No, this is abnormal at baseball games. Don't say this isn't abnormal at baseball games.
Wait, who said it wasn't? Who said it was
article.
Normal? What is this? TMZ?
I think so. This isn't abnormal at baseball games. Yeah,
this is abnormal.
This is. Don't do this. One fan dropped trow, and just kind of let it hang out.
This is purposeful.
Mm-hmm. No, there's no. Oh, he was carrying a nacho plate and
his
4
crack
beers.
Came out.
Yeah, no, this was drop trow. This is my tuchus. Everyone, please look at it.
Yeah, I'm reading the TMZ story now. Watch the clip for yourself. The woman with him is clearly laughing while trying to stop him, though we can't imagine everyone at home was happy to see this Jays fan's tail feathers. By the way, the Blue Jays won Friday, though the exhibition games have no bearing on the standings, so maybe this fan's butt is actually a good luck charm. We reached out to Major League Baseball and local police to see if any investigation is underway. So far, no word back.
Really?
Yeah, interesting.
Blue Jays did win the Grapefruit League.
Really? Champions?
Yep.
Who won the Cactus this year?
The Giants.
Wow.
And
Justin Verlander.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't they have an old pitcher?
He's teaching the youngs.
That's right. Finally, we go to Georgia.
The Royals got second.
Oh, nice.
Well, they had the same amount of wins as the Giants, but they had 5 more losses.
Wow. Giants just canceling games left and right.
That was it. The Giants' scheduled week.
Cowardice.
Yeah.
A group of Georgia men broke a Guinness World Record by playing a continuous basketball game for 121 hours and 3 minutes.
Wow.
The men, members of the Atlanta-based nonprofit, I'm sorry.
The Atlanta-based nonprofit what?
Men Opposing Sex Trafficking.
Right.
Or most. Completed their game at 10 a.m. Friday in the gym.
To raise awareness for most?
I would assume so. The 23 players ranged in age from 17 to 64 and were required to remain inside the gym for the duration of the event.
Yeah, I broadcasted a baseball game for 7 hours yesterday.
Almost
we
the
were
record.
Raising awareness.
Yeah. The final score was 13,096 to 12,972.
Wow.
Money
Were there
was,
any reviews, media breaks, anything like that?
Yeah, was there a long media timeout?
Was there halftime?
I don't have any information on that. Those are good follow-up questions, though.
Well, they accomplished what they set out to do.
They set the world record. 121 hours. That would be 121 divided by 24.
That's like 6 days?
5
days?
5 days and some change.
All right.
That's a long basketball game.
That is a long basketball game. Longer than the NCAA tournament has been playing so far.
Do you go take a shower, or do you just
just keep hooping?
Yeah.
You sub out. Yeah, you sub out and you go home and you sleep probably.
Well, you got to stay in the gym. That was the rule.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. I'm out on this actually.
Yeah.
Raise awareness, but at what cost?
I mean, you got to sleep.
Imagine how many points do you think the leading scorer had? A couple hundred?
Yeah, it had to be.
Yeah. If you played basketball for 126 consecutive hours, how many points would you have?
23 players scored
350 points.
26,000 points.
26,000
total.
Right. There were 26,000 points total.
Amongst 23 players.
Wow.
That's also not an even number, by the way.
I probably would have dropped 6,000.
You want to raise awareness for your organization? You need to have a guy sit in a chair and hold up a sign that says 250.
Exactly.
Like Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, but it'd be like 2,500.
Yeah. Because also there would be no video proof of that, just like Wilt Chamberlain's game.
That is exactly true. He's a myth. All right. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Connor.
All right. We'll take a break. Mike Schaefer will join us on the other side, assuming his work meeting hasn't gone extremely long.
Ooh.
We're back after this for the noon hour on 1620 The Zone.
Come the Guardians.
Yeah, I have statistics to back up that we have people that listen.
Mike Schaefer.
Anytime there's sort of a debate as to who can do something, Happer would always put his name forth, for sure.
Husker 24/7 on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
I could be a star.
We are now very pleased to be joined on the hotline by our good friend Mike Schaefer, Husker 247. Schaefer, hello. How are you?
I am doing well. How is Connor Happer? We're 4 days down in the tournament. There's only a handful of days remaining. Your favorite sport,
yes,
is it's coming towards the end. How do you feel about this?
I feel sad about it, and I'm trying to fend people off today who say the sport is dying because only high major teams made the Sweet 16.
So here's my issue with that. Like, how much of this is just math? 29 teams from 3 conferences made 68 spots.
100%.
And then if you do the math inside the math, which I absolutely should not do, what percentage of like top 4 seeds were made up exclusively from those 29, teams that are from it's just the math would sort of tell you where we're headed for this. Plus, the first couple of days of the tournament also just kind of showed, weird year. There just that many upsets, and other than Drake over Missouri, which felt like the most obvious thing in the world,
and McNeese.
And McNeese, I guess. Yeah, and Colorado State was not an upset because they were favored as a 12 against Memphis, who was weirdly seeded as Memphis had a higher seed than BYU.
No, Memphis, they flipped Memphis and Louisville in the bracket. It was an accident. I really think that.
Memphis was supposed to be the 8.
Memphis was supposed to be the 8, and Louisville was supposed to be the 5. I really think that may have happened.
Okay. All right. I can accept. Is BYU like the most exciting non-top 2 seed in the tournament here?
Yeah, because it's not Arkansas. And then you're left with just
Definitely
Ole Miss.
not or Michigan. I guess they're exciting because all of their games are exciting, but or dramatic, I guess, if you will. There's something about this BYU team, and they'll probably just go and get smoked by Alabama now. But I am really excited because if they were to beat Alabama, then they get what? Duke? Like, BYU is maybe the most exciting team that I think they're like the most exciting non-expected power team at this point.
I find myself weirdly rooting for Purdue, but I know that they're gonna get smoked by Houston probably in this next game.
Purdue.
No, I don't hate Purdue. That's not true. I don't.
Text from you where you're like, we were talking about which Big Ten teams could make a run in the tournament, and we were both basically like, well, definitely not Purdue. So I don't know that you believe in the Boilermakers.
Wait a minute. I've liked Purdue compared to most all year long. Maybe you're thinking of it. The team that we haggled on, the team that you disliked and I kind of liked was Wisconsin. And
I agree. I think we both didn't. This was also in mid-February.
That's true.
This was, weeks ago. So the relevance here is nothing. I'm just surprised because I didn't think that you were that in on Purdue. The Big Ten team that I think is good is Maryland, and they really maybe shouldn't be here today. But I'm excited for Maryland, Florida as well.
Travel or no travel?
I don't know. I am victim of the moment. I'd rather have the buzzer beater than a travel call there.
Same.
I'll be honest.
Yeah, honestly, I if I was a Colorado State fan, I might have a stronger opinion on it today. But I saw it in the moment. It didn't feel like anything was too far out of the ordinary where I would demand a whistle in that moment, given, how it was a buzzer beating shot. I just don't think you ever see that called in that instance.
I mean, not in the sequence of a fadeaway off the glass and a buzzer beater, but I feel like we see some version of that a few times a game, every game in college basketball that goes uncalled. I mean, travels largely are just post players shuffling their feet at this point.
Everybody travels every time they get the ball. It's an epidemic. There's nothing anybody could do about it because they don't call it anymore.
It does feel that way.
Yeah,
it definitely feels that way.
Have you enjoyed the the conference banter, the conference to conference banter this weekend. I mean, it kind of goes back to the first thing we talked about, but a lot of Big Ten and SEC cheering and Big East not cheering because they don't have a team in the Sweet 16. Do you get into all that, or is it, like you said at the beginning, sort of the randomness of the tournament and playing the numbers?
I certainly felt early, and I still kind of feel this way, though. Obviously, the Big Ten didn't cover itself in glory with Illinois or UCLA and their matchups against those SEC schools. But I feel like the first round made me think, and I could be completely off on this, that the gap between the SEC and the Big Ten wasn't worth 6 teams. Like, I think the SEC is better and deeper, but I don't know that it really needed to have Oklahoma and Texas in the tournament.
No.
I just don't. I don't see the necessity of putting 6 and 12 conference teams in because you think conference is that deep overall. But for the most part, I mean, I think the SEC flexed its muscles. It was fascinating watching Kentucky's guards just bully the hell out of Illinois yesterday. And then I thought a UCLA team that was going to be able to show up against Tennessee, like they beat the crap out of Utah State. And okay, I get it. It's Utah State. That was a really kind of surprising performance to me. And then, the Big Ten lost one last night with Oregon versus Arizona. And I think that's just, Oregon, the latest team to fell victim to Caleb Love and how good he is. So, for the most part, though, I think the Big Ten has acquitted itself well. Wisconsin ran into a team that I shouldn't have been seeded at 6 in the first place, and we got a great game out of that. Purdue took care of a couple double-digit seeds in awkward fashion, which is kind of in line for Purdue. Michigan State, I don't really believe in, and I wouldn't be shocked if Ole Miss beats them. And then I wouldn't be shocked if Maryland's able to give Florida a game. So I think, we could have some really kind of interesting conversations moving forward, but I think the SEC has looked good. I think the Big Ten has looked good. The Big 12 looked better than I thought it would.
What was your viewing experience this weekend? Like, how did you watch the games?
Thursday, I just stayed home, watched most of them with the setup downstairs, which works pretty well. Friday, I was over at Prairie Flower Casino with the 1620 The Zone contest winner. I believe his name was Brendan and his crew. And so I hung out with them a little bit. Josh Peterson, Matt McMaster stopped by. It was a good time. It was a good time. I know an invite was extended to one Connor Happer, but he couldn't make it.
Yeah.
So I watched games there. And then Saturday was wonderful. I left 2/3 of my family up in Omaha, and I drove back to Lincoln and had the house all to myself. And I just sat on a couch and watched basketball and wrestling, and that was essentially it until I went to bed and did nothing. It was a wonderful Saturday.
Fantastic.
Sunday was fun.
And
I got the family members back.
While I think this was the wrestling stuff was going on while Creighton was playing Auburn, and it was a very odd timeline. Yeah, it was a very odd timeline for me because I was like sitting there watching the Creighton game and checking in on Twitter during the media timeouts. And then people are tweeting about Nebraska wrestlers winning national championships. It seemed like you were pretty locked into that.
Yeah, I watched all 3 matches, in part because of the uniqueness of having 3 in a row, 3 finalists. Nebraska hadn't won an individual title since 2011. I remember Antrell Taylor, who I was probably most interested to watch, with no offense to Brock Hardy or Ridge Lovett. Because I remembered him from Millard South. I mean, he's a really good high school football player. Mike Sauter was talking to me about him before, I think, the opening kick of the first game of the season. He's like, watch that kid. He's a really good kick returner. And then he ran back a touchdown on like the very first kick return of the season.
What a call.
So that was sort of my introduction to him. But yeah, that was fun. I covered wrestling. That was the first beat I ever had of a Nebraska sport way back at the Daily Nebraskan. So I have a lot of appreciation for Mark Manning, who is just a great human. And I was super, super happy for him. I don't know, and I don't want to pretend like I'm a wrestling individual because I covered it for 1 year. I know more than some, but certainly nowhere near the Fanatics. The Fanatics will tell you what Nebraska achieved by getting second a year where Penn State was just otherworldly and maybe the toughest individual sport conference in all of sports, like what Nebraska achieved this year was tremendous. I know it's not a national title as a team, but a runner-up in that conference, which is just hard all the time, and in that event, which is just a meat grinder. I mean, wrestling, you could not say more about the job Mark Manning did this year.
No doubt about it. And I echo your thoughts on Manning. Anyone who's ever crossed paths with him is like, yep, that guy's awesome. He deserves all of the good things.
Such a burst of energy. Like I love every conversation I've ever got to have with him, and hopefully I get I'm thinking about bringing him on a podcast. I think it'd be a fun chat.
Excellent. Okay, so elsewhere on that podcast, you're probably talking about spring ball over the next couple weeks here. What are we watching out for? Whether when it's been rule talking tomorrow, or as we go on throughout the spring, like what are you going to be kind of tuned into? Whether when you walk into practice or what you hear from players and coaches.
These are the Mike Schaefer appointed big narratives of the spring.
Okay,
you can choose to disagree with them. I'll give you 3 because they're the 3 that I have most sort of flushed out in my brain at this point. The first one, and I think this is the big, I think this is what most media members are going to try to do over the next few weeks, and that is to try to figure out in what way a full off season of Dana Holgorsen changes Nebraska's offense. Like, what does it look like in terms of personnel? What does it look like in terms of just, where guys are spaced out on the field? So many questions are going to be asked of offensive players about, how is this different than the bowl game or Iowa, or, what the expectations are now with Holgorsen fully in charge. So I think much of the time is going to be spent on that, as it should, because that's a big part of everything. And then the other narrative that either I am developing myself or I think will continue to emerge, could be a combination of both. I think we are setting up for maybe the best or basically most productive individual running back season in quite some time for Nebraska. I do think Emmett Johnson, as someone who's been slow to accept the fact that he's Nebraska's number 1 running back, or has been Nebraska's best running back each of the last couple seasons, I think Nebraska, which has liked Emmett Johnson and continues to like Emmett Johnson and did not go get another running back in the portal, are going to load him up in a way to help out Dylan Raiola, and because it's a weapon that Dana Holgorsen could use in this offense. And so I think he's a guy that can be involved in the passing game and the screen game. Certainly he's going to be involved, as your primary running back. So I think there's going to be a lot of discussion about Emmett Johnson, his usage, his value this spring. I think he's going to be a really big talking point. And I think he's going to be a big talking point all year. I mean, there's a chance that we get to the end of next year and Emmett Johnson could be Nebraska's most valuable player. I mean, I think that's a real possibility here, even with Dylan Raiola at quarterback, because of what his value could mean in terms of opening up everything else in the offense. So I think that conversation starts this spring.
No doubt. I was thinking, and along those same lines, I was sort of thinking about how we digest spring ball compared to what it's like for fall camp, when you have an idea of who the main players are going to be, and you're trying to kind of, get all your ducks in a row from like a team perspective. Individually, it's a big opportunity for a lot of players because Nebraska's going to have a lot of guys out this spring. It's a big opportunity for a lot of players to make either first impressions or make a big jump this spring. When you think about guys who fit into that category from an individual perspective, who comes to your mind first?
Big jumps this spring. I go to a lot of those Miami guys that are in their second year. I mean, this is a huge opportunity for Vincent Schaefer to cement himself as Nebraska's unquestioned linebacker in the middle. Where, you're going to have, Watson Trent. I just want to say Trent Watson. You're going to have Javen right back. But I think Vincent Schaefer can really kind of prove all of the talk that was about him last spring. And, this is someone who wants to smoke, if you will.
Nice.
At that position. And I think he's one of those guys. I mean, I think Van Poppel fits in that category. I think Willis McGahee fits in that category. I think if you're talking about just sheer opportunity, you look at some of those young defensive backs, whether it's a Ramir Stewart or a Caleb Benning or a Donovan Jones, they're going to have opportunity as well. And so I think this is a great spring for young guys, certainly on the offensive line. Someone like a Grant Bricks or a Sam Sledge or a Jason Machachok, all people that Matt Rule has mentioned, they all have a lot of opportunity in front of them. At running back, Quentin Ives has a chance to kind of just take the position and run with it. I believe Jamarian Parker is an early enrollee. He might be off on that. Otherwise, you don't have Connor Booth, and then so it's Ives and Nelson and some walk-on guys, and so he has a chance to carve a roll out. At wide receiver, it's a little bit more difficult because you have so many new faces that I don't know that if a Quinn Clark is going to be able to stand out at his position in the same way that an Ives or a Makai Nelson might at running back. And so I just think there's different people with different opportunities in front of them. This isn't the exact question you're asking about, but this could be a big spring for an Elijah Judy to cement himself as a contributor in Nebraska's two deep on the defensive line. I'm just trying to think without having to go like really, really deep, but for a Mason Goldman to be able to perform and show that he should be part of that rotation, like a Maverick Noonan, could we see him emerge as a jack lineman? There's guys on this roster that we like as high school players that you kind of bury because there's been new transfer portal people or new high school players that you like. So this is where they kind of get to make their move, right? And so this spring, I'm kind of trying to keep an ear out for, okay, that's a name, like just have a mental checklist of different people rather than sort of the same 15 names I feel like we talk about all the time.
People feel good about the top of the wide receiver room with Key and obviously Ja'Cory Barney and Hunter and Gilmore and whatever you get out of those guys, and Nebraska's going to need them to be good. What's the opportunity like this spring for a guy like Cortez Mills? I mean, do you think he could be a player right away for Nebraska with a good spring here coming up in the next couple of weeks?
I don't think that Cortez Mills came to Nebraska to not be part of the mix of this thing. And I don't mean that they're going to give him a spot. I think he's that competitive as an individual. I think his talent, his upside is immense, and he's going to try to put himself in their top 6 or whatever it is at the wide receiver room. And so you've already got the 3 transfers coming in. You have Barney returning. Like I mentioned, there's Quinn Clark. There's some other guys at that position, but there's going to be opportunities for Cortez Mills, and you didn't mention him, but Isaiah Mosey too. Yep. And so the sort of spring that they can they have the Ja'Cory Barney spring where you make yourself almost indispensable? Like, yeah, there was additions last year too, but Ja'Cory Barney was still a really valuable piece of everything as a true freshman. Can Cortez Mills or Isaiah Mosey do that? In general, though, I am trying to not allow myself to get too far ahead with the wide receiver room. I did that last year, and it was to the detriment of how I think I viewed the team, because it made it really hard for me to accept that Nebraska was having all of these offensive issues when it seems like it was set up on paper, and paper isn't the real game. So I'm trying to not allow Dane Key or Isaiah Hunter or a second year of Dylan Raiola or Dana Holgerson.
But Dana Holgerson, though.
All of these things to tell me that Nebraska has a good wide receiver room until they prove it. I'm trying to take the running back approach that I've employed for almost a decade and move it to the wide receiver room now. It's time for me to see it. I'm not going to be selling the Kool-Aid out on the side of the street like I did all of last.
But Dana Holgerson, Schaefer, Holgerson.
I know. It's hard. It's easy to get yourself fired up about stuff you can't see.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do it. It doesn't matter what you say. We're going to do it for the next 6 months. So get used to it.
It never matters what I say. I think that should be the opener right there. It doesn't matter what you say.
Put it in there, Josh. It doesn't matter what I say, Mike Schaefer. All right. Enjoy the week, my friend. Good to talk, and we'll talk to you next time.
Hey, real quickly, opening day, Thursday, Royals Guardians. Which one of us is going to be complaining to start the year?
Oh,
both of us. It's both of us.
I see all the predictions coming through that just have all the AL Central teams with the exact same amount of wins, except for the White Sox, of course. And
who would you pick now?
I find that appropriate, to be honest with you. I don't know. I guess I would pick the Royals. I guess.
I also pick the Royals. I think it's Royals, Guardians, Tigers in that order. Twins are fourth.
Yeah. I don't know.
Both the Royals and Guardians make the playoffs. It's just a flip of last year where the Royals are the division winner and the Guardians are a wild card.
Every time we get to this point, especially after the Royals have like individually, they had a really good year from a lot of their players, like career years from a lot of them. I always think there's Is Seth Lugo really going to be a Cy Young guy again? Is Cole Reagan's really going to be out there eating, 200 plus innings? I don't know.
What if Seth Lugo's success was a product of what the Royals have done as an organization pitching-wise?
Yes.
Could they not have stumbled into their own version of a later Corey Kluber with Seth Lugo? Not saying that's at all the same exact pitcher, but a few modifications and smart behind-the-scenes stuff could have unlocked Seth Lugo in a way that nobody else
They're definitely a lot better at that than they have been, and the bar was below the ground before.
I would not say that you could even say the word development when it came to the Royals pitching for roughly a 10-year stretch.
It's great. I'm glad they did it this way because for years I just planned on them ruining every pitcher they get, and now I'm actually excited about a few of them who I didn't think I would be.
And you can get excited about your first-round pick in a way that you weren't when they made it.
That's exactly right. As long as he never pitched again, and he's not pitching anytime soon, I don't think, Mr. Kaggs. So that's good. Tanks. He hit a couple of them during the spring, and maybe we see him. Maybe we see him in Omaha. I know you're a frequenter of the Storm Chasers games, but maybe we see him in Omaha coming up soon.
Yeah, we'll be there. Hudson's all about baseball now. He's making the switch. He's still basketball, still his favorite sport, though.
I'll just wait till May and June.
It'll be great.
All right, Schaefer. See ya.
Yep.
Mike Schaefer, Husker 247. You can check out all the spring ball coverage there and random musings on the Cleveland Guardians and the Royals pitching development in the AL Central.
A little AL Central preview in there.
Speaking of the AL Central and the Royals, voice of the Royals, young Jake Eisenberg, will join us on Wednesday. The Royals are playing 2 exhibition games in Texas at the Big Trash Can for the next 2 days. Wednesday off, travel back to Kansas City. Opening day with Cleveland on Thursday. So Jake will join the show on Wednesday to talk some baseball, and maybe I will give him my concerns, my doubts.
Ooh.
Will Seth Lugo really be that good again? And he's like, you know what, Connor? I think he will be, and I'll tell you why. And then I'll get really excited. And then baseball season will be here. All right. We are back after this. Let's jump into what some of these coaches are complaining about from over the weekend. We got a bunch of clips for you guys. Coming up next on 1620 The Zone. look at this. Stephen A. Smith has chimed in on college basketball.
Oh, good. I was wondering when he would realize they were doing that tournament thing.
Stephen A. Smith on no Cinderella teams in this year's Sweet 16, quote, "If this continues, it will be the death of college basketball."
There you go.
It's always good for a poll quote, isn't he?
How do you feel, Connor? You were wrong about college basketball. It is dying.
What Stephen A. says goes.
That's right.
He's right. I was wrong. College basketball, if this continues, is as good as dead. That's it. Wrap up the sport.
It was a fun little sport we had
Yeah,
for
it's
a
fun.
while.
That was fun. Good tournament, whatever. Now go ahead. You expand it to 500 teams. Do whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
At this point, just blow it up. Blow it up.
19 seed Drake just starving to make a
Somebody made like a
round of 84.
Somebody made like a parody bit of like all of the Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3 teams just like all in a bracket to start the season, you know?
Because it would take 6 months to get through it all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they might be in the Sweet 1056.
What do you mean Kentucky only got to play one basketball game this year? Yeah, they ran into Robert Morris again.
Yeah, they got 18 buys all the way to the round of 900. It's crazy.
Just wasn't enough.
But the other thing that we love about the NCAA tournament is it gives coaches the opportunity to make a name for themselves. Maybe it's by taking another job. Maybe it's by complaining about the job that you do have.
These are options.
They're all options.
I would never complain about my job.
Maybe it's about being asked if you're going to take a job that you're definitely going to take, but you don't know how to say that you're not going to take it. Let me reintroduce you to former Drake head coach and now notably current Iowa head coach, Ben McCollum, this weekend. The question is in there, and it was asked cleverly by the reporter, which was, "Are you going to be around?"
You're going to be around.
She covers, I assume she covers little Iowa sports as well.
To get some pie afterwards.
You're going to be around. Here is how Ben McCollum handled that one over the weekend after Drake's first round win and then second round loss.
We see you around next season.
Those are questions that I don't probably want to answer right now. I don't. Those are well, somebody else asked me in there, and it's probably the same answer that I give everyone. I was pretty focused on my team and all those things.
Okay, well, we got there. It's at I just don't want to. I don't want to talk about it. Okay.
I swear I'm not playing the result on this. That's a yes.
Yeah, correct. Correct. Which has led some people to appreciate Will Wade this weekend. Will Wade, the bastion of hope and people acting in good faith. College basketball coaches this weekend, who was asked many times about his opportunity from McNeese to go to North Carolina State, which he did take, by the way, and now has been officially announced multiple times over the weekend. And then, so he's learning a lesson as well as you go. When you're up front with the media and you tell them and you put the label on yourself and you say, "Look, I'm pretty honest. I'm gonna keep it straight 100 with you. I've already told I
believe that's a direct quote from Will Wade.
The team, I've told the team we're all straight with each other. Like, they know the deal. I'm bringing that guy with me, that guy that carries the boombox. Everybody knows the deal.
Dork.
Everybody knows the situation. And so when you say that out loud, then people are going to ask you after your season ends, "Hey, so anything new on this whole North Carolina State bit?" And he was like, "Yeah, can we just figure this out? Like, you'll know the answer tomorrow." And that was how Will Wade became the truth teller. Will Wade, the truth teller, over the weekend. So he keeps it 100. Sean Miller beats Texas in the play-in game, loses to Illinois, and then bolts for Texas. Sean Miller, handshake meme Sean Miller, using Xavier to get better jobs. Thought that was a good one over the weekend. We had an appearance from Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino was asked by a reporter after the game, Rick, you must have noticed that R.J. Lewis, the player of the year in the Big Ten, or Big East rather, wasn't playing very much at the end of the game. Did you? Why was that?
Oversight?
Here is Rick Pitino's response.
Roger Rubin from Newsday. Rick, you had RJ on the bench, for a pretty long stretch at the end. Was that just because he just wasn't making them, or was there something more to it?
Played 30 minutes. It's a long time.
So he was tired?
No, played 30 minutes, and I went with other people. You already know the answers, Roger. You're asking leading questions. You already know it. So don't ask leading questions. You already know why he didn't play. Okay.
Right here in the middle.
Yeah, but Rick, I need you to say it.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
You don't have to say he sucks, but you need to say that it was an intentional choice by me, the head coach.
So he was tired?
To bench the conference player of the year.
He wasn't tired. His conditioning was fine. But here's the deal. I'm going to keep it 100 with you guys. He went 3 of 17 and scored 9 points. That's why he didn't play. He couldn't make a damn shot.
You saw the stat sheet. I couldn't keep that guy out
so
there.
Enough of you asking leading questions.
I want to kill myself, jump in the cold and die of frostbite.
So another redemption story. Will Wade, Rick Pitino, both looking great. Both looking great this weekend. Let's go over to Mick Cronin.
Oh, what's he doing?
Mick Cronin. He has been complaining a lot this year about being in the Big Ten. I find it so interesting that the UCLA basketball coach continues to complain about being in the Big Ten. The entire university got a bailout from the conference.
Mm-hmm.
But
he should be saying thank you.
When you go to the Big Ten, you sell your soul. You sell it to television. You sell it to bad tip-off times. And you sell it to a lot of travel concerns, especially if you're one of those West Coast teams. And Mick Cronin cannot stop complaining about it. So when a reporter nearly asked the question of what happens next after the season, Mick Cronin interrupted and decided to take it another direction.
Start looking forward rather than backward. Right now, guys, it's 12:40 a.m. and the season just ended. That's it. You're going to ask me about next year? Right now, my biggest concern is how bad the seats are on the Allegiant flight, on that terrible plane that we're going to have to fly home tomorrow. The school bus. The cheese. The plain version of the cheese. Hang in there. And is there any chance that Doug got me some hot food, because I don't eat on game day, that I got something edible? Not next year. Not right now, guys.
Absolutely love the deadpan from the reporter. Hang in there.
Hang in there, man.
I don't think he's capable of not coming off like a complete whiny, like a huge whiner. He clearly has no shame about it whatsoever. We have to get on a terrible Allegiant flight with terrible seats and terrible food. And yet I'm admitting to you that I put myself in this position by saying, I don't eat on game day. It's kind of one of my bits. I don't know, but I really hope that I get some food. I hope these people who work for me know that I'm hungry. So
I just want you all to know that I didn't eat. Yeah. I could have kept it to myself.
That's
and
right.
Just like
martyr baton.
Yeah, ask the guy for food after the game.
Huge martyr baton.
But y'all need to know I don't eat.
He's complaining about a charter flight. Meanwhile, he's talking to the journalists who have traveled all across the country, some of which on their own dime, and have traveled planes, trains, and automobiles to get whatever they are to cover the event, just so the coach can complain about his chartered flight and the lack of food in the charter flight. And the reporter handled it perfectly. He said, hang in there.
Well,
I hope you're going to be okay, millionaire coach. I feel bad for you, Mick Cronin. What is wrong with that guy? It is off-putting. Way off-putting. He's off-putting, obviously, as well, because he doesn't eat on game days.
Who among us hasn't been a little hangry?
I guess. Jeff writes in, Allegiant catching strays. He got the airline wrong. It was either Allegiant or the Sun Country, whatever it was.
No, Sun Country's a fine airline with fine people.
Yeah, but they're all great. It's all chartered flights that the plane takes you from exactly where you need to go to exactly where you need to be. It's amazing. It's the best possible way to travel. Mick Cronin's like,
it is.
No, thank you. I don't like this.
Not for me.
Not for me.
I need a hot meal.
And then there was my favorite. This is future national past and future national championship winning head coach of the Houston Cougars.
People forget.
Kelvin Sampson, who was asked about his matchup with Gonzaga this weekend and used that to set the record straight.
Try to get a game with Gonzaga in 2021.
Gonzaga.
He's so angry about it.
It always burns me up when people say that. You know, it's like calling me Kevin. My name is not Kevin. My mother used to say, people would see my name and say, "Hey, Kevin," and she would say, "Don't let people call you Kevin. Your name is Kelvin. Make sure they pronounce your name right." So that's why my antennas go up with that. Same with Gonzaga. They were our neighbors. It's not Spokane and it's not Gonzaga. It's Gonzaga and it's Spokane.
Thank you, Kelvin Sampson. Thank you so much for saying this. This is a huge bugaboo of mine as well. Why? What has possessed you to say Gonzaga? I have no idea. It's always been Gonzaga. It's always been Spokane. And my name is Kelvin. My name is not Kevin. My name is Kelvin. Don't let people call you Kevin if your name is Kelvin. It's a great notice.
He's right about so much in that clip.
I know.
It hits the ear is very odd.
That was my favorite one. I mean, out of all the things that the coaches, and there were many things that coaches said this weekend.
Well, he was the only winning coach that we played a video from.
But he still found a way to complain. But I really like this complaint. I thought it was a great complaint. It was more of, hey, here's the deal. That's a good program. You're going to call them Gonzaga.
They've been around for a quarter of a century now or more, winning tournament games. Like, and figure it out.
My name is not Kevin. I want that as a drop so bad. My name is not Kevin. My name is Kelvin.
What instance would you play a drop like that?
Anytime we talked about Kelvin Sampson, just like anytime we do with Patino, it's this.
Like I want to kill myself, jump in the cold and die of frostbite.
Yeah. You know, or anytime we talk about Jameis Winston, it's this.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
Right.
That's new Giants quarterback, Jameis Winston.
That's the thing. You never know when you're going to need the Kevin Calvin drop.
That's right.
All right. So put on the board. It looks like we're running out of room on the board.
I gotta
reorganize here. There's a lot of stuff that we don't really use anymore. A lot of grunts on there. We're going to retire the grunts for a while.
We'll need those grunts.
Are we going to retire Fedor saying Stephen Ashworth?
I guess we don't really have a use for it anymore.
Stephen Ashworth.
But we could just play that anytime we said Fedor from now on. Jesse writes in.
Hi, Jesse.
So basically, basketball coaches are big crybabies. We should get some crybaby coaches. Maybe that's. I mean, I think coaches, they go to the NCAA tournament. They understand that what they're saying is it's an opportunity to showcase who they are as programs. And if you are to your core, to your DNA, a huge complainer about everything in life, like Mick Cronin is, then that will show itself on the national stage. So on one side, it's great. We get to see who you are. On the other side, if who you are is bad, then now we know that it's bad and it's stupid. But I gained a great appreciation for Kelvin Sampson this weekend. Don't call me Kevin. My name is Kelvin. And a great appreciation for coaches in general who are just keeping it 100. They ain't lying to you anymore. And then a great disappreciation for Jay Billis.
Oh, thank you. That's what I wanted to say about
Billis,
this.
When will he ever stop? When will he ever stop?
This guy disgusts me.
He will never stop. But the coaches portal is always open. The coaches portal is always open.
Never the players.
Everyone knows this. Nobody's complaining about players transferring anymore.
The double standard of coaches being tampered with.
This is a 7-year-old argument. Like, it was a thing. People did not know how to handle players transfer all the time. We now know how to handle it. The transfer portal is opening up today for basketball, and nobody is mad about it. There's going to be 2,000 players in the college basketball transfer portal. Nobody cares anymore. We're over it. It's over. And the coaches are leaving, and they're telling you they're leaving, and everything's okay. It's all above board now. We don't have to be Jay Billis and talk about it on the internet anymore.
Meh. Young Jeezy. Meh.
And the NCAA says there's no money. And the schools say there's no money.
No money available.
Just keeps complaining about the same things over and over again. Find a new slant.
Why can't I watch all the tournament games in one box? Just put all 4 games in one box. You can, Jay.
You actually can. It's 2025 now. I did it all weekend. And the few times I had to click on the one game to make it the full screen, I was like, whoa, am I in the IMAX? This is incredible. My screen is gigantic.
Tight game with 3 minutes left. I got to zoom into one game. Oh my gosh, my TV's huge.
I'm watching games in the Sphere. This is incredible. All right, so shout out to them coaches over the weekend and not shout out to Jay Billis.
Jay Billis would also like you to get the hell off of his lawn.
Sam McKewon's going to join us at the top of the hour. We'll be back with more after this on 1620 The Zone.
He gives you the latest sports news, analysis, and commentary in a clean, concise, and disease-free way.
See there?
What a relief.
Thank God. Wonderful. It's the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Get started on your next adventure at Woodhouse GMC. No matter where you're headed, we've got a ride built for the journey. Lease the 2024 GMC Canyon AT4 Crew Cab 4x4 for $599 a month for 30.
Let's get back to the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Here comes the clown.
Well, the tournament rolls on, and so does the Omaha Food Fight presented by Union Bank and Trust, where the Savory 16 is underway, folks. The field will once again cut in half this Thursday after this Wednesday as we make our way to the Edible 8.
Can you believe no restaurants from small conferences made it to the Savory 16?
Isn't it amazing?
This is the end of the Omaha Food Fight as we know it.
And then we're in the Food 4 or whatever we're going to call the last 4.
I don't know.
Vote now, 1620thezone.com for your favorite restaurant and see if the Foodie 4. I was close.
You were.
The Foodie 4. You could help your favorite restaurant advance in the Omaha Food Fight presented by Union Bank and Trust.
Oh my gosh. Are we allowed to talk about this?
Oh, what's going on in the bracket? Are you checking it out?
Could I interest you?
I haven't looked in a while.
In a Savory 16 matchup between Johnny's Cafe and the Drover.
Whoa. Staples.
These are heavy hitters.
Duke in North Carolina. Who else is in there? We got any more Blue Bloods?
How about Block 16 versus Cassius?
That's like New Blood. That's like Gonzaga. Don't call them Gonzaga. Against Cassius?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
UCLA's back.
Winner of that is going up against Fernando's versus Broncos.
Hello.
That's right. Broncos is in
So
the
there's
Savory 16.
There's a little bit of new blood in there. Not new blood, but like some unexpected. That's like Arkansas making the Sweet 16. You know, it's like they're coached by John Calipari, but did we really expect that?
They were a great program that went by the wayside and has built themselves back up into a contender.
Oh, Josh, we had one more thing for one more coach before we move on.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Hurley is
this guy.
Mr. Hurley had a lot of things to say after they lost to Florida. Really good game. Maybe one of the best games of the tournament so far. But unfortunately, they were an 8 seed and they ran into the 1.
That happens.
It sometimes happens, and sometimes it doesn't matter how well you play because the other team on the other side is just a little bit better than you. But if you're Dan Hurley, you don't think that. You're walking through the Dan Hurley tunnel and you're saying, Baylor, as the next team was taking the floor, Baylor, I hope they don't bleep you like they bleeped us. And the bleep is an F word.
We'll let you decide which one.
It's the one. It's the one.
It's probably the same one that Louisville coach said.
So Dan Hurley does his press conference and he gets up there and he's going like, if you're watching along with us on YouTube, you could see this. He's going like this the entire time and his life is flashing before his eyes because he's lost. And he's lost in the NCAA tournament. And a lot of thoughts are conflicting, right? It's been a great run for UConn, but he's also like, yeah, maybe I had a problem with the ego, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, Dan. Maybe, Dan.
Gee, you think?
Guy who's shouting 2 rings baldy to random dudes in Omaha. Like, what do you have against those guys? They're just bald.
You're bald.
I'm bald. He could have been yelling at me. He probably was.
I love the NBA aggregator accounts.
Oh, yeah.
This idiot said no to coaching LeBron and Luka for $1 billion so he could lose in the round of 32. What an idiot.
Yeah, sometimes you lose in the round of 32.
And sometimes a team offers you a job before they get Luka Doncic.
Yep. I don't.
Who would have thought, maybe they'll trade Luka to the Lakers?
I don't think anybody was really thinking that last summer.
Right.
No. So we mentioned Kevin Willard earlier, whose athletic director, Damon Evans, just left to go to SMU. And he was like, yeah, I think you guys know about that, right? Like our athletic director is leaving.
Just want you all to know.
That was happening. And Kevin Willard is, of course, being pursued by Villanova at this point. By the way, did you see Kyle Neptune's TV debut? It's a great applaud.
No.
They put him right on TV and he was okay. Better at that than coaching basketball, it seems.
Is it?
Maybe that's the new thing.
Villanova to TV?
Villanova to TV. There's a pipeline there.
Mm-hmm.
But
how about 1620 The Zone to Westwood 1? How about that?
Oh, Nick Bob was giving some great analysis this weekend.
Everything mattered.
Seriously, there's no better guy for that job because he cares so much.
Yeah.
He loves college basketball.
Congrats,
more
Nick.
than anyone I've ever met.
Yeah.
But Kevin Willard, who sits up at the podium, is being pursued by other schools, including Villanova. at this point. He said that there are things that he needs to fundamentally change with this program, and complains that they went on a road trip to New York before Christmas and couldn't stay an extra night at a hotel. Basically, he's saying, I need more money. We need more money. I have a plan. We just need more money. So I was thinking about this and how there's always been football school versus basketball school, and now this other money is coming in, and you have to pay for the $20.5 million in revenue sharing and stuff like that. I'm thinking, like, everyone's saying, and it goes along with what we were talking about with the NCAA tournament and how it's changing or not changing, or people are just overreacting. I really, really think it's about what you prioritize. So Maryland, who's a school formerly known as a basketball school, got a bunch of football money from being in the Big Ten, and obviously wants to keep its football program competitive and needs to spend the money that they not an athletic department that is super flush with cash, right? But the money that they do get, it's football first at a football first school. If you are in the Big Ten, I'm sorry, you are a football first school. So I wonder what this means for programs like Maryland, like Michigan State, they've always been basketball schools, but there's no doubt about it, especially in a world where the big red button is hit and everybody's complaining. If Ohio State's complaining that they get less or the same amount of money as Rutgers does, and if Clemson and Florida State can strong arm their way into saying, hey, why are we getting the same amount of money as Virginia, Syracuse, something like that, whatever it is. If they can strong arm their way into doing that, then what's stopping Ohio State from strong arming their way into doing that? So in a world where that could potentially happen, you have to find a way to remain competitive, because if you don't remain competitive, then all of a sudden you find yourself booted out to the curb in the college football landscape. And that's when the well really, really, really runs dry. So it becomes really important to these schools to prioritize football. So I continue to think the basketball first schools, specifically schools without football programs, they have different challenges. But I think in basketball, the basketball first schools continue to sort of take W's in this situation. Like, it's not, I just want to remind people that, in my opinion, we're going to talk about all the change and what's going to happen next for all these schools and sports, and where do you divvy up the money to. In my opinion, if all the money's the same or similar, whatever, conference to conference, that's obviously a lot different. It's not about the money. It's about what you prioritize. So if Kevin Willard, the college basketball coach at Maryland, who's got his team in the Sweet 16, formerly a basketball school, like I said, has to beg and plead to his athletic director to get another night at a hotel in New York City over Christmas, that's not a good sign for a place like Maryland. Now, I'm sick of the coaches complaining about it all the time, but at the same time, like, you want to have that comfort. Like, do you think UConn, if they asked, would be able to pull that off for a night? Like, I think UConn basketball would probably get their wish from the athletic department. I think Creighton basketball would probably get their wish from the athletic department, to be completely honest with you. And not that everybody, you want to be respectful to the budget and not overstep your bounds and all the things like that, but it's not about the money. It's about what you prioritize. And these football schools in the Big Ten specifically, obviously, what they're going to prioritize. They have to stay competitive in the football market. They have to put the money that they get back, because most of it comes from the football program, back into the football program. But if your athletic department budget is being made based off of the revenue that you get from the basketball team, it's going to get put back into basketball. And not a lot of questions are going to get asked if you want to stay an extra night at a hotel in New York, generally, in my opinion. So I want people to keep that in mind as we change eras in college sports and college. The NCAA tournament is dying and all of those things. It's not about the money. It's about what you prioritize. It's about what you prioritize.
Maryland can't get an extra night in a hotel?
It's kind of surprising, isn't it?
It is.
Kind of surprising.
I mean, I know they're, like you said, they're in the Big Ten. They're a football school, but come on. You're a basketball school.
Feels like cutting corners a little bit there. No doubt. So I mean, his complaint's probably valid, but I do get sick of hearing coaches complain about it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a middle ground there.
No doubt. All right, we'll be back. The 1 o'clock hour is coming next. Sam McKewon will join us. We'll get his thoughts on the basketball from over the weekend, how the local schools did, and both on the men's and women's side. We haven't talked about the Creighton and Nebraska women bowing out in the first round either. So we could do that with Sam and, of course, some spring ball coming up on 1620 The Zone.
Sam McKewon is the newsman. Sam McKewon, Omaha World Herald. On the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
Certainly appreciated all the coverage from the World Herald across our great nation over the weekend. Sam McKewon leads that department well. Sam, congrats. Well done by your team out there this weekend. What'd you think this weekend?
Oh, they did a great job, yeah, for sure. John Walker at Creighton, Drake down with the Creighton women, Drake Keeler with the Creighton women, and Wilson Moore with UNO. We did a great job of covering it. Obviously you wish one of those teams had advanced in the second weekend. That was not likely with UNO, but it was great. And I think we may be seeing an end of an era at Creighton. We'll have to see on both the men's and women's teams. I'm really intrigued to see how they pivot.
Yeah, I read Tom's column sort of exploring that sort of idea. I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. But also they have the coach, and he's been proven to be pretty adaptable over the years, but no doubt about it, the situation around him changes.
It does. I mean, I think there's a bunch of different things that Creighton could opt to do with where they want to go. One of the great advantages they have is they obviously have incredible young players. I mean, Jackson McAndrew is a budding star. May not be a 4-year player. I mean, that guy could take a leap in his second year. We could be talking about a guy next year that's scoring 17 a game and shooting 44% from three and all that jazz. So they've got a great young core and they've got some pieces coming, and they're going to be competitive in the transfer portal. I don't know that they're going to outspend Indiana or something like that, but you tell me who's been a better selector of transfers than Greg McDermott.
Yeah.
There just hasn't been a better scout and transfer addition maker than that guy. Like none. There's been no one better than him. So if he goes out and gets a guy and people are, well, I don't know. Well, McDermott's track record says he knows. And so you trust that he's going to get it right.
Right. It's I think there's two ways to look at it, right? Like there is I would view more of what he does is, yes, you have to select the right guys, but also when they get into their program, they become sort of the best versions of themselves. So therefore you take that one player and you put them in another program and the same thing doesn't happen, right? So is that a selection or is that a development thing? And either way, it's impressive, right?
Yeah, you have to have the components to know who to pick because to know that you're going to maximize their ceiling. And so, obviously Baylor Shireman is a great example, coming from South Dakota State. Stephen Ashworth coming from Utah State, but Jemiah Neal, power guy, power conference guy, 1-year guy. By the end of his senior season, he was a threat. He had one of the best games in Creighton NCAA tournament history. So and it's not just those three guys. It's Denzel Mahoney back in the day, and Jefferson and Marcus and all these guys that they've added over the years. Marcus Foster, I mean, all these guys, they know how to do it. They know how to add guys that will add value to the team, and they develop those guys around it. You go all the way back to Echenike. They're just really good at doing that.
Yep.
And McDermott has a skill for it, and he will find he finds the right guy. It's just the talent he has, and then he does. He maximizes who they are as players. But he does have a knack. He doesn't miss very often on transfer. And his hit rate's 88%. It's pretty amazing. And it's one of the most underrated things about him as a coach is that he knows how to build a roster better than almost anybody in the country for the budget that they have.
Hey, you wrote, speaking of the transfer portal, you wrote a little blurb on the Nebraska women's team and sort of what they need to do this offseason. They've gone out and got, transfer portal guards each of the last, 3-4 seasons now. Yeah. And they need to obviously surround Britt Prince with a bunch of playmakers because she was a standout in the NCAA tournament game. They didn't win a game, but ultimately I think it was a pretty solid season for them. I guess what's ahead as you see it for a person who's always around Nebraska women's basketball?
Well, they had a good season given the fact that Natalie Potts got hurt, and Natalie, was probably one of the 10 or 12 best players in the Big Ten. And I think her performance this year would have bore that out. She would have shared that spotlight, I think, with Alexis Markowski. So they'll get Potts back next year. And one of the things that I think Williams is going to have to just think about is, do they want to try to pursue a player like Alexis Markowski? And they don't currently have a player like her on the roster. They just don't. And I'm not just talking about intangibles. They don't have a true back to the basket post. I mean, Petra Bojan a little bit, but not really. She's not what Alexis is. And so do they want to go with sort of a 5-out system, or do they want to try to make Jess Petrie or Bojan, those posts? And who do they pursue? I do think they need another guard. Because right now, what you're looking at, Rimdahl graduated, Moriarty graduated, and Widener, you just don't, who knows? I mean, she's considered a senior, and it may be time after what is now the third knee injury to move into a different role.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll assess that, but if you lose Widener too, then what you're bringing back is Prince, Nisley, Hake, 2 true freshmen. You probably want to add one more veteran to that. It's a really interesting conversation. I think they've basically built it where they're going to get an NCAA tournament every year. I think Amy's got it to there. But if you want to go to the second weekend, there are certain things you have to achieve. And it is almost impossible to do that if you are below a 60. It just is. Creighton did it a couple of years ago, but that Creighton team is specifically built for March and had a great point guard who isn't here anymore and was surrounded by elite players. It just doesn't happen. So you have to be one of the top 16 teams to make that move. And to do that, you have to have pretty elite athletes. And you got to have more. And Williams will have to decide how to do that. The revenue sharing question is how does Nebraska determine how it's going to share revenue with the women's basketball team versus the volleyball team? And it's not a zero-sum game. It's not. There's money for both. But a lot of programs won't be sharing any money with their volleyball teams and at all. I can only think of 4 or 5 that might, and Nebraska may well be one of them.
They're definitely one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So so you have to make a decision about how you share that. And, do you take the volleyball money out of men's basketball? Do you take it out of football? Because somewhere in there that pie is finite, and you have to decide where it's going to come from. I think a lot of people are like, well, it'll come from women's basketball. And I'm not sure that's the way to go. I honestly, I think you should probably try to fund that in a competitive way, because in the Big Ten, it's going to get super competitive there. I'm intrigued to see how revenue sharing is going to work in women's basketball, though. Like USC and UCLA are not swimming in money.
Right.
I mean, UCLA's athletic department is in debt. And so the idea that UCLA is going to have a number 1 women's college basketball team, and they're going to do that with 0 revenue share dollars or $1 million rev share, and that's iffy to me. I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. And so it's going to be really interesting to see which schools emphasize and which ones don't. Iowa's going to put a lot of money into it. They will. Iowa's going to have a good women's basketball program because they're going to pay for it. Are teams like USC and UCLA going to pay for it? Are they? Maybe USC can get away with it because Juju's getting, State Farm money and getting, Nike money and all this other stuff. So she can be a millionaire outside of revenue sharing. But I don't know how those programs UCLA is getting 3,000 fans a game. I don't know how they're going to pull this off if they don't find a way to share revenue down there. So you could see a sea change in women's basketball very quickly based on who's paying money and who isn't.
So speaking of, Sam, do you have any sense on how Nebraska might prioritize this, and might we know before it all goes into effect, I guess, this summer? I guess what's the timeline for this, and how do you feel like Nebraska is going to handle the spread of money that they have?
I think they've been doing a lot of background work on how they're going to do that. And of course the House settlement has to be approved on April 7th. If it's approved by a federal judge, it may be appealed, and then it will go up to the appeals court. If it's denied or it's delayed, then we're probably going to have the system as is for another year. And so there's a little bit of uncertainty there, and we don't know the answer yet. But if it goes into revenue sharing, then on July 1st, you begin the process of the revenue sharing era. Up until then, NIL is, kind of a free market. Technically, after July 1st, all deals over $600 in NIL are to be vetted by an NCAA clearinghouse. The question is whether the clearinghouse will have any teeth to enforce it. And, let's say somebody decides to violate that. Are they going to put them on probation? What are they going to do? That's part of the question here is what's going to happen then. For example, in the NFL, I do not believe that an owner like Clark Hunt or whatever can just give Patrick Mahomes $10 million. Right. Well, listen, we know that you can, the salary cap is what it is, but we want to sign this receiver. So we're going to take $10 million of salary off the books and I'm just going to give you that as my own personal money. And that doesn't work. So I don't know if that's going to be the way it is in college sports or not. What I'll say is that you hear these numbers thrown around about, men's basketball support. I've read those, and I respect the reporting there. I'm just saying that, like, when you hear things like, $8 or $9 million for a men's basketball roster, that's probably revenue share after July 1st and NIL up too. But starting with the revenue share, it's very unlikely that any power football conference team program or school is going to allocate $8 or $9 million to the basketball
of the 20.5 million. Yeah, no, I don't think
or
so.
23 million or whatever. It's just not going to happen unless you don't care about football. So I guess maybe Kansas will do that, but I don't think anybody else will. So like that, but the NIL can go up till July 1st. So what you're going to see is a Wild West. You're going to see some guys making a whole bunch of money and getting like what the equivalence of a signing bonus. And so that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Sam, let's go over to spring ball here. You wrote out some questions or some things that you'll be watching for storylines in the spring. How much can we learn about the progress of Dana Holgerson's offense with his new retooled weapons and another year of development or an offseason of development of Dylan Raiola? How much can we learn about the progress of that situation in the next couple weeks?
I think we can only learn it through sound bites and anecdotes and, scuttlebutt. And to be honest with you, I don't put a ton of stock in that.
Yeah.
I think you have to, what I'll put stock in is, okay, is the offense running at a higher pace? Is it moving with a level of pace urgency that's faster than last year, that moves more quickly? I think that's something to watch. Nebraska moved at a glacial pace in its first two seasons. I think they ran 68 plays last year, and the first year it was 62. Glacial. And I just don't think that's the way that Nebraska's going to win football games. I think you got to have some urgency and some snap to you, and you got to have a little hot step there. And I think Dylan Raiola is a good quarterback for that. Like, I think that's part of it too. Is he doesn't need to be slow. The one thing the advantage you've got with Dylan is his mind moves really fast. And so what do you do with a guy like that? You get him in a no-huddle tempo and you let him deal.
I think he's a rhythm guy. I think we saw that last year, when he made a play early in a game, whether it was on a run or a scramble or something like that, like he always felt more comfortable to me after that.
He did, and tempo gets you going that way. And you look at it like he's the kind of guy that can throw an infield, so to speak. And in college football now, you have more plays like that where a guy's kind of sidearm slinging it or getting it out on the edge, kind of like he'd be throwing to third base, throwing an infield, so to speak. And he can do that. And so, I'll be really curious to see how they tweak that and whether they want to go a little quicker. They want to get the ball in athletes' hands. Because, part of what I'm talking about is, okay, you're out of the shotgun, you're no huddle, but you're waiting 27 seconds to run a play.
I know, it's crazy.
And you're waiting 27 seconds to run a bubble. You don't want to wait 27 seconds to run a bubble. You want to get a first down. You want to run up to the line of scrimmage. You want to get that bubble out in 15 seconds because you don't give the other team a chance to line up. You give them a chance to line up, they're going to defend that bubble better. And so I think that's the thing that I'm watching for is what's the pace like and how is the pace suit Raiola. And then when you start going at a faster pace, when you start snapping your fingers a little bit, then your defense has to be ready to go out and make plays.
Yep.
Because your offense is going to go 3 and out, and your defense has got to force a 3 and out. You have to think,
or get turnovers.
Get a 3 and out, right? Something's got to happen. Because if you have 3 and outs in the first half and your defense doesn't get any, your defense is going to get exhausted. And so that's part of the issue that I think Nebraska's got to work through on the defensive side of the ball. Just so we're clear, that glacial pace that Nebraska ran the first 2 years of the rule era helped the defense. It helped them.
No doubt about it.
They didn't face as many plays. And so you always have to keep into context,
You can't just look at yards per game, because yards per game can be manipulated by the offense pace. You have to look at yards per play. And when you start looking at that and figure, no, Nebraska's still pretty good there, Connor. But it ain't quite the same. It's not quite the same number. It's 52nd in the country. So they were 52nd in the country in yards per play on defense. They were 18th in the country in yards per game. You see, I mean, the difference there is pretty stark. And what that tells you is the offense's pace helped the defense to not be on the field too much, because when it came to yards per play, they gave up some. And so if you're going to crank that pace up, the yards per play and the yards per game begin to sync up more. And that's when you're going to be like, oh, wait a minute, this defense is giving up 400 yards a game. What happened? Well, they turned the pace up. And so, like, I've often said, well, Eric Shenander's 2021 defense is probably about as good as last year's defense at Nebraska. The difference is the pace. The pace was different. And so, like, what he had to deal with when his defense ran onto the field was a whole different kettle of fish than what Rule was doing. And it's hard for people to, like, pick that, like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, you gotta look at yards per play.
Do you think
those are things that go ahead.
Do you think you crank up the tempo a little bit? Obviously, you do it in the vacuum of the offense because it makes the offense better, but with the expectation that the defense is, as a result of it, going to take a step back, and with its personnel, with its personnel is losing a lot from last year, and it just won't be quite as sturdy. So you need to rely on that big play a little bit more defensively, right? It has to. The sides have to sort of marry each other. Like, do you do that with the expectation, that the defense is maybe a little less sturdy this year?
Well, what's interesting is that, like, in theory, if Nebraska's offense had been better in 21 at just executing in the red zone, that they were a much better team, and B, that defense would have been, was a bend don't break system, and it would have worked. So sometimes there's exceptions to that rule, but think of it like, the levels. If you're a sound guy or an audio guy in your car, think about the levels that you want your audio at. And there's pluses and minuses to move in the bass and the treble, or however you want to move it, and you kind of move it around. And that's the thing that you get. You can crank that pace up, and your defense may give up 60 more yards, but you decide that the trade-off is more than worth it. And there have been teams that have done that. I mean, LSU in 2019 had the best offense I think any of us have ever seen. Their defense was pretty bad, but it didn't matter because they just outscored everybody. And so, like, there are dials that you can move up and down the list. I will say this, Connor, that in recent years, since that LSU team, it has been Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and all the models have been kind of the same. Big plays when we can get them, but we're going to take our time and we're going to play hard-nosed defense. Almost all of the teams that have been rewarded in the CFP, not quite Indiana, but a lot of the teams that are rewarded are teams that are emphasizing the defensive side of the ball and using some version of a pro-style offense that utilizes the run game and utilizes it really well. And so, like, the current trend is that you go back 5, 7, 10 years, and you get Sark at Alabama running bubble screens with Devonta Smith. You get Joe Burrow. You get Trevor Lawrence. You get a whole different thing. And so, like, you got to kind of decide as a coach, where's the trend moving? You got Dana Holgerson on your staff, and if you say, Dana, I want you to run 90 plays, well, Dana knows how to do it. And what's great is they actually have a quarterback who can pull it off.
Right.
Like Heinrich Harburg, I don't know.
No.
But, like, if you said, Dylan, we're going to run 90 plays today, and you're going to throw the ball 51 times, what do you think? That kid would be like, all right, let's do it. Let's load up the arm and let's go. And he probably would be really good in that context. Remember that his hero is Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes is running 85, 90 plays a game at Texas Tech. So, like, you just got to figure out, like, what works for the QB, what works for your OC, and how do you protect your defense. And that's an area where Rule has sided with his defense for the first 2 years. And I think I don't know if it cost him games. I totally understand why he wants to do what he wants to do. But I just wonder if you crank that pace up a little bit, you get a little bit more out of your quarterback, and you start scoring touchdowns. Like in the red zone, you got to find a way to balance pace and execution so that you're getting the defense off balance. Because red zone defenses are too good today to just walk up there and go, all right, we're going to run our standard play action pass. It's not 1995 anymore. You have to be really, really good in the red zone. And one of the ways you get there is by running a no huddle pace that keeps the defense on the field.
No doubt about it. All things we'll be looking for hints of, I suppose, over the next couple of weeks. Sam, always appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Sam McKewon from the Omaha World Herald. Matt Rule will talk tomorrow. Football. Josh, football. Are you ready? Get ready.
Give me a little taste. Little taste.
I don't like it when you do that. Yeah, we'll get a little taste. They're practicing today. They're using one of the 15 practices on today. And according to the schedule that we got a week or so ago, I guess maybe this is one of the questions for tomorrow. Does the Husker games?
Oh yeah, does that count
is
as
that a practice? So I have today.
Good question.
2, 3, 4. 4 practices this week. 5, 6, 7. 3 practices the next. 8, 9, 10. 3 practices the next. 11, 12. 2 practices the next. 13, 14, and then 15. So as they have it on the schedule, the Husker games do count, presented by FMBL. They do count as a 15th practice. But maybe there's a way around that with the amount of quote-unquote football activity or whatever it is that
Really
you do.
slow playing these dates. 2 practices a week?
Yeah.
Come on.
3 and 2 and
come on.
Stretch it out. Keep the bodies healthy. Get productive. Josh?
I guess if you don't have an O-line, there's only so much you can do.
It gives us stuff to talk about for
that's
more
true.
than an entire month.
That's true. We do need that.
So it'll be today, March 24th, through the official end is Saturday, April 26th.
I'd like Matt Rule's opinion on the death of college basketball.
I bet he's got bracket takes. I think he's been golfing recently. He took a little spring break.
You know, I'd say John's going because I'm a New York guy.
He went golfing, and I think he went golfing with his kid. You know, did some things.
How'd he hit him?
I don't know. I don't know how he played. Maybe that's a question tomorrow. He didn't post that on his Instagram stories.
First question.
Yeah.
How'd you hit him?
Yeah. Hey, coach, how'd you hit him? He's like, bad. Remember he made that, he chipped that shot for the documentary.
Oh, yeah.
And he chipped that shot on the Joel Klatt podcast, too. So maybe he's a little better than, he's good when the lights are on, at least according to him. John emails in on the Equitable Bank inbox.
Hi, John.
Connor, did you know that Joe Burrow wanted to transfer to Nebraska before he transferred to LSU?
Whoa.
Are there any stories about this?
I would like to hear more about this.
I don't know. I have no idea about Joe Burrow's wants and desires. But
could you imagine?
It's certainly interesting.
If that offense played at Nebraska, it would have been exactly the same.
We're back after this on 1620 The Zone. Well, Josh, we have a couple minutes. We have to talk about the validity to the take that Nebraska football should just, or Nebraska basketball should just cancel itself. These are things that are being talked about in the fan base of Nebraska athletics.
By people who allegedly care about these programs.
Very much so. Started in a tweet from Corn Nation on
your source for all things Huskers.
Friday. Or it was after they saw the graphic of Nebraska never making the NCAA tournament. They flashed. It was during the UNO game, or the Omaha game, and that was St. John's last win of the season, for the record. Flash up the graphic of the last time St. John's won an NCAA tournament game, 2000. Longest droughts, Nebraska Cornhuskers never, and it caused some people to have some real thoughts about what was going to happen next with Nebraska. Do we even bother with Nebraska basketball going forward? So, Josh, I ask you, as a many-time canceler of Nebraska basketball,
I have canceled them multiple times.
Is this guy on to something?
No. You can't make your men's basketball team a club intramural team.
Serious question on a Friday. How many of you really care about this? This being Nebraska basketball. Or this being the fact that Nebraska basketball has never won a tournament game. By the way, I've never heard anything come up more in my life. Did you hear the news? Nebraska's never won a tournament game. I realize Nebraska wants to compete in every sport, but is that reality in the current landscape? Why would we bother pumping money into this sport when we have so many others that are more successful? The answer on a broad scale is, from a Huskers fan standpoint, it's one thing. But from a broad scale, because it's one of the sports that you can make money off of? Question mark, question mark, question mark?
Because you're top 10 in attendance?
There are two revenue sports in college athletics. Revenue, not only revenue generating sport, but profit generating sports. Now, Nebraska volleyball turns a profit, yes. Probably Iowa women's basketball or
UConn women's basketball.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there that are special and different. But generally,
Oklahoma softball.
You make money off of football, and you make a little bit of money off of basketball. That's even the case even when you suck.
Yeah.
So if you want an answer as to functionally why you would do this, there is your answer. But Nebraska fan is thinking, well, I also have an answer because there are a lot of Nebraska basketball fans. We hear from them every day. What would Nebraska ball Mike do if they canceled the program?
Oh, wow.
Maybe he would feel a lot better. I don't know. But what a ridiculous question. And this person was appropriately ratioed on Twitter. There was a couple people agreeing, as there always is. We hear from that person all the time on the show. Hey, you guys ever think about this? If they just if they just folded up the program and then just put all of that money into buying better football players, how good that would be? It's like, no, that would be horrible. That would be stupid. And I say this as a person who understands the fact that Nebraska's never won an NCAA tournament game. But what are they getting out of the program? It's a little bit deeper than just how good you are. It's a little bit deeper than that. But going back to our conversation before, it's about what you prioritize. So I am curious to see how Nebraska prioritizes men's basketball. As Sam wondered, like, if you're paying volleyball, unlike a lot of other teams in the country, you're allocating some of that money to volleyball. Where are you, what piece of the pie are you taking away from? Is it the football pie? Is it the men's basketball pie? Is it the whatever else, So they'll have to answer that question.
Baseball.
Well, there's not much of a baseball pie, Josh.
There will be zero baseball pie.
There's not much of a baseball pie. Not much pie. Not much pie in baseball. I don't even know if Nebraska is going to fund the scholarships.
Oh,
what is the maximum now? It'll be this summer. The 32 or 27
That's
or something.
A lot.
I mean, it's out of control. Remember, it used to be 11.7, and that's going to change. There's going to be like plus 20 in baseball now. for scholarships. Is Nebraska going to fund that many baseball scholarships? They're in the Big Ten. Ain't nobody else going to do it. You think Nebraska is really interested in spending that much more money than its peers in baseball in the Big Ten Conference when they could be spending some of that money on other sports and other things? My answer is probably not.
Seems unlikely.
Yep. By the way, Nebraska baseball 2-7 in the Big Ten. Ouch.
We're in the midst of a run that I said was very, very important for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing well.
No. But did you see they did the hidden ball trick?
They did.
It wasn't really even the hidden ball trick. Did you see the play in college baseball over the weekend where the guy tried to use the safety bag as a safe haven and was tagged out because he realized that the safety bag is not safe at all?
No.
Yeah, so pickoff throw over to first base, and he gets back in, runner gets back in safely, and then he realizes that his right foot is on the safety bag instead of the real base. He is appropriately tagged out on the play. He's like, "What? That was on the safety bag. I thought that's what the safety bag was for. Safety. Whatever happened to safety bags?" That's what the guy did. He did a Seinfeld impression walking up the field. Yeah. He's like, I thought the safety bag was about safety. It was not. Only in the specific case where the runner is running down the first baseline. Get ready to learn safety bag, buddy. College baseball fans around the country. They'll teach you about the safety bag.
Nebraska with one win since March 12th against schools not named Pepperdine.
Ouch.
And you're going to play number 5 Oregon State next weekend.
But they're coming into Lincoln, right?
That's right.
That's right. They got to come to your place.
Hope it's 9 degrees.
It'll be nice this weekend, right? I think that's the plan for weather.
That is.
Were you planning on dirt as a weather?
Everything is covered in dirt.
Yeah, I know we had blizzard, but did you know a weather poll question?
Ooh.
Did you know how do we word this? A kind of weather, a type of weather, a category of weather was dirt. How's it coming out?
Did you know a category of weather was dirt, or should it be is dirt? Not to argue over the fine.
Was, right? Because the dirt happened.
Yeah. That's going up at Happer Show. Did you know a category of weather was dirt?
Tuesday it was sun. Wednesday it was dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday or Wednesday afternoon it was snow. What's it like outside? It's dirt.
Dirt.
What's your car look like right now? Dirt.
Dirt.
Looks like it's been through a whole winter of dirt, actually. All right. Speaking of the polls, we have those coming back on the other side on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone. All right, to the polls at Happer Show on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed. 2 poll questions today. We snuck one into the wire, too. Is Providence a big pastry town?
I'd never heard of this until this morning. That means nothing, for the record.
It seems like it. They have weird long pizza that is apparently room temperature.
And very expensive.
I'll believe Gary.
Yeah.
I'll say yes.
Yeah.
Providence is a huge pastry town. 52% are saying no. It's close. Please get your votes in at Happer Show. And early returns on this. Did you know a category of weather was dirt? I did not know, but
we
now
had
I
the
do.
Dust Bowl. What was that?
It was just an event.
Okay.
It was just an event. 78% say they did not know that a category of weather was dirt. Honey, it's dirt outside. It is not nice. It is not bad. It is dirt.
It's dirting real hard out there, babe.
It's dirt everywhere. All right. Those are the polls, Josh. What are we watching?
We're going to watch the NCAA Tournament, the women's tournament, which is chalkier than the men's tournament.
As always, is the women's tournament dead?
Maybe. Texas handily beating Illinois right now as they head into halftime. 34-18, excuse me. Iowa takes on Oklahoma in a 3-6 matchup in about an hour on ESPN. Alabama, Maryland at 4, Florida State, LSU at 5, West Virginia, North Carolina at 6, South Dakota State, a 10 seed, takes on UConn at 7 o'clock on
that'll
ESPN.
be fun.
Yeah. Ooh. And Mississippi State against number 1 USC at 9 o'clock. NBA doubleheader on NBA TV. Lakers are out east to take on the Magic at 6 o'clock, followed by a rematch of an NBA Finals that people forget. Bucks Suns is the matchup tonight. NHL on Hulu at 6:30. Canucks taking on the New Jersey Devils.
Watch out for them Devils now.
That's right. And golf, Simulator Golf League Championship.
Tiger. We haven't talked about Tiger today or any of his girlfriends.
He's very happy.
He's
and
very
that's
happy.
fine.
Please remember to respect my privacy.
That's right. The 3 seed Atlanta Drive are taking on the 4.
Hang on.
Okay.
What's up with Tiger's photographer?
All of those photos were off center.
That's that weird picture with him laying with his sunglasses on there.
They're in a hammock.
Why don't they just pose?
Yeah.
Just smile. Just put one picture out there.
I'm sure you got a selfie together. It's fine.
All right.
The 3 seed Atlanta Drive take on the 4 seed New York Golf Club. That is not a chalky tournament in the Simulator Golf League.
Uncanceled.
8 o'clock on ESPN2. And don't worry if you can't watch it tonight, because this is just match 1 in a best of 3 series.
Sure.
I know you all
We needed that.
excited. And at 9 o'clock on TBS tonight, the season 19 finale of American Dad.
Yes.
The show is expected to return to Fox next year for season 20 for some reason.
I'm glad it got renewed.
Yeah.
Needed it.
Love that Seth MacFarlane has jobs.
Keeps having them.
Mm-hmm.
Making shows.
Yeah.
Josh, thanks.
Thank you, Connor.
That's what we're watching tonight, and that is the show. If you missed anything, 1620thezone.com is where you can find it all. The crossover coming up next.